All right, we are live. Let me go ahead send this link to Mr. Zetsui. Where do I get? Oh gosh, I'm a noob. Where do I get the link? Add. Here we go. Copy. All right. So yeah, man. Well, hopefully we get some folks in here. Yes, indeed. We'll see. Yeah, not gonna be doing too much, but did just want to do this little debate breakdown. Beautiful. Okay, here's Zetsui, everybody. Yo.
How's it going? That was interesting.
See the icon.
Figure to add it, make it debate appropriate.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was that I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't think it was that. So let me just I feel like I'm still too deep into it. So tell me what you thought. Maybe you can pull me out of it.
The thing is, when someone starts doing like, what do words mean every way? Like, they're kind of backed into a corner. Because like when someone goes, well, is soda nutritional? The answer is no. If someone goes like, I need like, no, you need to define soda for me. What they're doing is any word can be deconstructed into meaninglessness. If I said to you like, so let's say that we were setting a table up for dinner, and I go, hey, could you grab a chair from the other room? And you said, well, what is a chair? I kind of like wood legs, 4 legs. Is a beanbag chair a chair? I guess those don't have legs. I think you sit there and just you will not go get it because you can't define it. Like, I need a perfect definition or I'm not going anywhere. The thing is, the person's not being reasonable. They don't want to communicate, and so I can just deconstruct language and just refuse to communicate with you, and that goes. So therefore, you can't really win the conversation with me because I won't communicate. Which I don't even know what words mean anymore. And so, is soda nutritional? No, it's not. And the idea is saying that you can't define soda for me. I can't define if you want to deconstruct language, no word can be defined.
Like, that's the thing. They kept falling back on. That's why I hope I did a good job calling it out of like this. Just feels like intentional obfuscation because every single time we propose, I think a very reasonable general rule, and it's going to be well, not everyone has time to meal prep, and what about people who are full-time caretakers and not everybody can get to a grocery store and they just don't have that. It was like every single thing. There was always like
and there's always an excuse.
Yeah, always an excuse, and that's why I use this term soft bigotry of low expectations because it's like, well, gosh, the people you guys are describing are like just the most infant, and that's why. Oh, like I've never seen, and I'm familiar with Stardust from like years ago, like kind of in Destiny's orbit. But I've never heard anyone describe anyone who is anti-welfare state, like draw down the welfare state, described as being the one guilty of wanting a nanny state that's infantilizing people.
Yeah, the whole system. Even her. So the thing is, her saying like, well, it's about lowering the depths of despair of poverty. I'm like, well, I don't. I'm like, so during the next conversation, I decided to look up. There's actually just a short history of food stamps, and I'm like, that wasn't. It actually started as like there was times where we had surplus foods, and so it goes, hey, there's people that like are malnutritioned. We have surplus foods. How about we create a program so that rather than throwing that food out, we give people actually buy food stamps. So it's like I could spend $1 to get a food stamp with $2, which allowed me to go get these surplus foods. That way, and that was the purpose. Like that was the original food stamp program in the 1930s. Then from there, we've just gone on. But the idea goes, it's not meant to just, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if we had food and reduce depths of despair? I don't believe that's the purpose.
Yeah, and that's maybe I should have gone back to the history of it instead of going back to the acronym over and over again. Even though I thought that would have really just exploded their entire argument of like, because it's exactly what you just led off with. It's like words have to mean something for us to even be able to communicate, and we're dealing with a program that is designed to be supplemental, so not be your entire food base, and it's designed to be nutritional. So by definition, anything that's not nutritional should be excluded. Like that was my entire argument in 2 sentences.
And the problem is they're going to not communicate on the word. Goes, what even is nutritional? And you're like, okay, this isn't. Do you think we currently don't tax sugary foods? We tax we categorize things all the time. Is the idea
Yeah.
that goes, we tax vegetables. What even is a vegetable? Remember, like tomatoes are technically vegetables for the
Yeah.
purposes
Yep.
of certain taxes.
Yeah.
Like beans are not seeds for the purpose of some tax. There's times where it says words are imperfect, but so long as you're not trying to be an idiot, you can understand what the person's communicating. And the thing is, the idea goes, they need to describe, they need you to list every single food item, and goes, no, I don't. If in fact that would be, if there was a policy that said I'm going to grab a random person on Discord and I need them to list all the objects and then say yes or no to each one individually on a debate panel, that Bill's already has a problem that I think needs to be fixed. That shouldn't be how you do it. That even if that you shouldn't be asking me what it is. And also, businesses, the way it would actually function was I wouldn't need to create a personalized database. You'd say companies, you'd create a set of standards for different, because the thing is we have generalized statistical, like nutritional benefits of something.
Yeah.
And we allow you to only advertise. Like, so it's like what is that? Cheerios almost got like regulated as a drug for what the level of like health benefits they had. My teacher in health law actually had a laminated box of one of the ones that was like in the front, like, that was actually like legislated, like how severe it was. Like, this will cure all your heart problems. Eat Cheerios. And no, and so you can categorize these things, and you can create a system so that the database wouldn't be created by the federal government just individually sending a guy around to go to each store. What you'd do is you'd allow businesses to apply, because the thing is, they're going to want themselves to be EPT. They're going to want to create things that meet those standards. So if you say, look, get me things with this breakdown of carbs, nutrition, and these things, and then business will go, sweet. Let's make an EBT bar. Let's make an EBT like packaged lunch. Why? Because we can capture that EBT market. The reason why, when people are like, well, they're not all just focusing on junk food, they stock what people buy. And if I can buy junk food with it and people buy junk food with it, then they will stock more junk food, because that is what they're doing.
Well, and that's the point I got to towards the end, which was like, that's why I wanted to make sure it's like, are you, because if she was just like a socialist, or if she just like had no belief in the free market at all, then it's like, okay, I could see why you'd make that point. But it's like, what are these businesses? They rely on stocking with junk food because that's the only thing that people are able to get. And it's like, well, how about if the incentives change? If you're used to having whatever it is, 12-20% of your market be EBT come from EBT, that's like a 12 to 20% that like you're relying on every month on coming in. Whatever is eligible, you're going to go get it and you're going to stock it. Like,
what's eligible and what people will buy. So if people will buy it, like, as a store will go, what will sell? M&Ms sell, stock M&Ms. If they don't sell, then they don't stock them. If whatever's EBT available goes, okay, look, we rely on EBT, therefore stock things that are on that. And the thing is, it would even allow you to, so the way you would, I guess a lot of these people, I feel like, I'm like, do you guys not know what IT departments are? Do you guys not know what structures are? Like, I have a family member who worked in like IT consultancy for 30 years. So I guess maybe I see things in a different light of saying, how would you create this? It's like, well, you wouldn't create a database. You'd create a system where people are allowed to apply to say, I want approval for EBT. And there might be like a streamlined version if you hit certain nutritional standards in certain areas. And so if you want to say, I want to put a vegetable on, anything within like certain corn, certain like lists might just get instant approval. And then other ones, you might say you need to meet these standards. And the more extreme it gets, the closer you might get to like a sugary. So if you give me a thing that has 60 grams of sugar plus, then it has, like, you have to go through a higher process. So the idea of saying, do I need to define soda? And the answer is, no, I don't. I would simply say, like, there'd be an instant approval for something, a drink with no sugar in it might have a lower approval rate. But if you want to all these are called variances. And so even like a store, you might even have a variance for, it goes, if I'm in a rural area, I'm a general store. And in fact, I do it all by hand. I don't even have a database. I can't even scan a car. Like, I have so little, I don't even have electricity out here. And I'm the only one for 100 miles. You might be able to go, okay, fine. Then apply for a variance. That one store gets a variance where all their things are, even if they're soda and candy. Why? Because it's a rural mountain town where no one lives within, like, there's 20 people within 20 miles and that's all they have. And so it's not worth it. That store can just apply for a variance and say, hey, I have a hardship, geographical hardship exception. Like, these things are all doable. This idea goes, you need a bureaucratic nightmare. The reality is they only want a bureaucratic nightmare so they can say no to it. If it wasn't like, that's what they want to pretend, and they won't let you do anything to make it easy because they don't want it to be easy, because that would allow it to prevent what they want, which is just free shit because I want it.
Yeah, I thought every criticism they brought up, I thought we provided like a counter or why that wouldn't really be a thing. I thought Deej was better than that than I was. With some of the specific examples, but it's like every concern they raised, we offered like okay, well, here's how you fix that. Every example we raised, or like, hey, here's what they should do. It just completely devolved into like that's why. And I can see how they found their way out on the alcohol question, which brings me to Chapingo. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the intent was behind the alcohol question with the cooking wine, but I see now. But yeah, like when I'm trying to ask her before they got to the classification of like, well, alcohol's a drug, so that's why it's not included. Which is like, okay, I think
Well,
there
how do you
we could,
define alcohol?
yeah,
Why do you know define exactly what alcohol is? We again, the idea of saying that they're going to pretend like classification is impossible when they don't want to respond to you. Because if I
yeah,
want and something, or that's why you go, is soda nutritional? And he goes, well, there's a spectrum, and I'm like, really?
bro.
Why
Yeah,
are you
well, health is a spectrum, and it's really a sophomoric Like when he said sophomoric, like that. Oh,
like soft?
woo.
Well, again, it's deconstruction. Like he goes, I mean, technically, like diarrhea is nutritional if you're about to die of starvation. I mean, maybe it can help you survive. I guess it's who knows. It goes. That's what you're like. The thing is that again, as soon as someone wants to break the conversation, you go. If someone tells me, goes, what is soda? My response would probably be something like, I have neither the time nor the crayons to explain this to you. That like that.
Yeah,
Well, the problem is the person doesn't want to communicate. No matter what, there is no
yeah,
definition you will find because their goal is not to understand you. Their goal is to stop you from like to not. I don't want to respond, so I'm gonna just say I don't know what these words mean, and I will make you define them endlessly, and I'm never going to accept it. And such that it goes. And even if you answer me 1,000 times, all I'll say is, look how complicated this is. You know, I mean, who knows what it is? I mean, like God, like, I
yeah.
had to ask you 1,000 questions just to figure out what soda is. The answer is no, you didn't. You didn't even need to ask one.
Yeah, and I thought on the alcohol question, the real like mask off part of it was the beginning when it was, well, gosh, what was it? It was, well, alcohol, it's not a food item. Yeah, that was the initial argument, right? Well, FDA doesn't classify it as a food item. And I'm like, what? So soda is a food item? Well, yeah. Well, then how? And then that's when I asked
It
her, it's
is.
like,
Yep.
well, it helps
That's
alleviate hunger, and that's why I went back to that point over and over and over again because
so
she
with
kept
alcohol.
trying to pivot away from it. Like, no, I want you to explain to me. Don't mention alcohol. Don't pivot to something else. Explain to me, how is soda alleviating hunger? Well, it's got carbohydrates in it.
So does beer.
Yeah, so does everything. So
Because
like,
the idea, and also again, the idea of saying like it's again, what you can do this whole like I can't classify everything. You this if you're too stupid to understand how classifications work, the idea that goes it can't work because I can't figure it out. I'm like, okay, if you think that we can't classify things or the bureaucratic nightmare will cause. Yeah, if you're doing it by hand, perhaps, but again, there are systems in which you would say it's just think of like a label you could put on your thing. We have like heart healthy, different things. You just say, have you met EBT? And you just set up a standard that will allow you to get approval like anything else. And there might even, like I said, so I think the FDA even has like streamlined processes for even getting your drugs and things approved. That also makes people try and create different uses for current drugs to get through that quick approval process. This could be something that's not, again, nutrition's even easier because it would just be a breakdown of percentages of like, again, like you might have a breakdown or might even have a cost to calorie benefit. Because the other part is saying that if I'm giving you $100 and you spend it on a bunch of milk, you go to McDonald's and buy 10 milkshakes or whatever, like the super milkshakes with the extra cream. And so suddenly you just use all your EBT on 10 milkshakes. Why did I just do that? Why did I give you $100? Like, I didn't need to give you, like, you didn't do, the purpose of that $100 was to make it so that you survive that month. And if that's what you need, then that's the reason why we're restricting you. It's not because it's also because you're not supposed to become dependent upon it. It wasn't supposed to be your milkshake budget. The reason why we have these restrictions is because, the least bureaucratic of all would just be handing people cash. And in fact, you could even make it even easier. There's no requirements whatsoever. Just just put in a number that you want, and we'll add it to your bank account for food honor policy. That would lower all bureaucracy.
yeah,
But the problem is it doesn't work. The more restrictions you put on it, though, that's like, oh, yeah, they don't like restrictions. Yeah, no shit. It also limits people's ability. The problem is you don't want people to be misusing it for a purpose it doesn't serve, like saying it's my entire food budget. It wasn't supposed to be your entire food budget. And if you're using it as that, it's not for us to make it do that for you. It's for you to stop doing that.
yeah,
It wasn't given to you to if you starve to death without it, you were wrong. You made choices that apparently goes, I've tied myself to you. It's a lot of government programs actually that work that way. And a lot of actually even other people where they'll tie themselves to someone else and then demand that you take it. It goes, I have, without your consent, decided to make myself completely dependent upon you. And now it's your responsibility to take that, it's your fault if anything happens to me. The answer is no, it's not.
yeah.
Because actually, this even happens in, if you don't mind me, just off bit of a thought occurred to me. There was a streamer once where it's like he was the whole like orbiter thing, where someone is a larger content creator, smaller one on it, and let's say that smaller content creator suddenly by being allowed on that person's stream, their entire income they've made depend, like they quit their job and they're completely dependent on that other streamer to do it without their consent. The person just did it because they feel like all on their own. If that little streamer cuts that goes like, I don't want to have you on camera anymore, they go, oh my God, you're killing me. I'm going to lose my house. How could you do this to me? The answer is, I never told you to do that. I don't know what made you, it goes, I have no idea what made you think to do that. But people try and put that responsibility to say, if I put myself on the edge of a cliff and say, if you breathe, I'll die, you have to stop breathing. The answer is no, I don't. I'm only responsible for that. That's why you go. The program's purpose is it. If it's supposed to be supplemental, you can't tell me that like, oh my God, people will starve because it was never meant to alleviate. If someone's on the brink of starvation, supplemental, this isn't the program for you. This isn't a, and the thing is that one, no one starves in this country. We don't even have statistics on people starving, so no one's starving. This idea that goes, it's to alleviate the depths of hunger. One of the reasons we have so much a large homeless population is because they don't starve. That like there's other countries where they die in the winter. Ours flourish.
Yeah, it's the opposite direction. It's the adverse health consequences from being too fed, from overeating, too much or not enough portion control, and just putting junk upon junk upon junk into your body. And that's like, gosh, I mean, I've only done it.
If they want to, it's fine. If it's their money. The problem is, I'm saying I created a program not to just stuff your gullet, not for you to like, that's because remember, we're all paying for it. And so it says the reason, and again, the reason I'm trying to do it is also because, again, I don't want you using it for that purpose because that's not the program's purpose. If we want to have a cookie program, we can have a cookie program, but we didn't vote on a cookie program.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this is just such a perfect example of a government program that, you know, starts with the noblest of intentions. Like, okay, cool. We don't want people to starve, especially, you know, talk about the actual origination.
And we had surplus food. We're wasting food and we have people who could use it. Let's find a way to get these people in touch.
Right.
And two thumbs up from me.
And it was the Great Depression, you know, where 25% of the country is unemployed. Like that was the beginning of SNAP. We have surplus food and 25% of the country is unemployed. Let's figure out what can we do to like meld those two things to help people out. Like so that's how it starts. And now it's just what a great example. What did Reagan say? The closest thing to immortality is a government program.
Yeah.
And
that's also that's Friedman's statement as well, where he goes, "There's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably the original quote. But yeah, it's like here we have a program started with admittedly noble, honest, and good intentions, and now it's just completely spiraled into a complete dependency program. Like, so we've given up on the first term, which is supplemental. We've allowed so much crazy stuff into it that we've given up on the second term, whether it's nutritional. That's why I wanted to make my whole argument basically on that nutrition point, just because I knew they couldn't give an answer. And I thought that was so evident. I try not to look at the chat too much, but there are a couple in there that I felt like were being intentionally obtuse towards me, which it is what it is. You know, it's internet debates, whatever. But it's like, I don't know how I can be any clearer and just like asking you directly, is soda healthy? And it's like, well, it's a spectrum. That's like gender. It's a spectrum.
Well, it's like, here's the thing that I've been trying to figure out how to get around this, because it's like saying this: do humans have two hands? The answer is yes. If someone goes, well, what if someone had lost their hand in a war or something like that, or if they had amputated, or if they were born without? I'm like, okay, all I said was humans have two hands. I didn't say humans have indestructible, immutable God hands that define their humanity. I didn't say any of those words, but you've decided to, rather than communicate, to understand, it goes, you know what I mean. Humans have two hands. That would be a human who lost their hand in a war, a human born without a hand. We have qualifier words for these things. And so you don't need to have, but if I don't want to communicate with you, if I don't want to respond, I'll just go, does every human, and I want to go, I'm going to ask you every question about every possible way in which part of your hand is gone, such that is that, and I will just, why? Because now I don't have to participate in the conversation anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't actually, other than just pointing it out and saying, like, I don't know, I wish there was an actual term for it that you could just like kind of like label it and move on. Because the problem is, you tried where you said like, what is a woman type thing? Probably wouldn't be the one I go for, just because people then want to debate gender. Like, I think what is a chair is probably the easiest one to go for, because that's the thing people try and say. Like, if they don't want you defining a word, what is a chair is an easy one to get to, because you go, apparently you can't define these. No word can be defined if someone doesn't want it defined.
Yeah. Chfingo, you'll have to clue me in. I will have to plead complete ignorance to negative income tax. I've probably heard it in the past, but I just can't think of.
I've heard that term. And then quick refresher.
Yeah, reverting to hyper-technicality. Yeah, I mean, Zeroflex, how much of that debate did you watch? I know Chfingo was there pretty much the whole time.
That's all that is. Negative income tax. It's just basically meaning like where you get, rather than paying taxes, you get money back from the government. But I mean, plenty of people get that. I did work for the IRS. So like during law school, I would just work for the IRS where you're like helping low income people. And a lot of them, they didn't only did they not pay any taxes, they got money back. So it's like, because that's what credits are for. The reason why they don't they try and do credits over deductions is because deductions don't help anyone who doesn't pay taxes. So credits allow you to basically have negative taxes. That's why half the population doesn't pay income tax.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's I've seen that stat. It's like, yeah, the bottom 50% pay net zero taxes. Yeah, I have heard that before. But
yeah. Well, it's specifically income tax, because income tax, because you still pay Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, so your entitlements are still like covered. You still get those pulled out, but you don't pay any income tax versus everyone else. So
yeah, okay, yeah,
and it's also the largest in like for money we get to the federal government. Income tax is the biggest part.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, because this is like, and this is just another reason. Whenever I come across things which is like, yeah, this is why I just cannot be on the left. Like, I really try to keep an open mind to things, but like, I saw this clip of this girl on the Whatever podcast, and now she's like a host for Jubilee. She's like one of their left wing hosts in their debate shows. Black girl, and she was debating Andrew Wilson, I think, and he asked her just like, "Is 2 + 2 4? Does 2 + 2 = 4?" And she gave like a 2-minute answer about, well, if we were in the vacuum of space and there was nothing there to compare, then how can we assign a numeric value to even know what 2 is? And it was like a complete, like, total college postmodernist deconstructionist type answer. When it's like, how can we even have a conversation? Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. It's just 2 + 2.
You don't have to do this. And the thing is, I feel like you're trying to like head off there's times like where someone is saying something and you want to head off what you think they're getting at. Because if I said like, do you think blue is the color of the sky? Yeah. Well, then why don't you vote for Democrats? They also have blue. Like, it doesn't follow. So you might want to preempt to go like, so if someone said, is the sky blue, and you think they're about to do something wacky, like, yeah, it's obvious, it's insane. But you might want to say, it has no effect on my political party whatsoever. But then you'd answer and say, yeah, the sky is blue, but it has no relation. Like, or you try and, because if the person's going to cut you off, or you give one word answer and then they stop talking, like they try and cut you off. Yeah. I've had a situation like that. I had a debate with Pisco and Soy Pill, and it was me and Lactoid, or I think it was Soy Pill. And at one point, it was the word saying, what is the definition of the word? What was the word? Oh my God, why am I blanking on it? Indefinite. Okay. And that so let me ask you the question. If I said like, so it had to do with like the Trump tax, like deferment of funds, like the memo that went out that says freeze all these funds, report all that stuff. Okay. And he said the ending, it has to have a defined the deferrals need to have an end point, and his are indefinite. Do you agree that they're indefinite? What would your response to that be if I asked you, were they indefinite?
So, yeah. So, I mean, I used to think indefinite just meant basically forever. But then I started seeing, like, in basketball sports terms, of like indefinite suspension, and it's like 2 games. And so it's like, that's where I've seen it just used more in that context. So my definition for indefinite now would be something without a currently defined end, but not necessarily meaning it's a permanent forever, but just there is no current defined end.
So the thing is that, so if you look up like a thesaurus, indefinite has 2 definitions: unclear and infinite. So indefinitely means without it. Yeah. So without end, or it's just unclear at the moment. So if he's like been suspended indefinitely, it could mean forever. Because it goes without, like, I have no current plans for it ending, but also it goes, if something goes on indefinitely, I'm not saying no, it goes on forever. It's not that there is one. No, it's indefinite. It goes on indefinitely. And like infinity is indefinite. And so we use those terms. And so I think my response, because I think in the moment I said something like, well, colloquially, no, technically, yes, it's indefinite. Colloquially, no, it's not indefinite. Because he wanted to use that specific word. Because what you're trying to do is, I want to pretend like it's infinite. So therefore, I'll say indefinite and refuse to use any other word. That way, you have to say yes to the unclear version, and then I can pretend like it's the infinite version, or we refuse to clarify. Because that's why he went after Lactoid, because Lactoid didn't do, like, he tried to more get a detailed answer, where mine was just quick, colloquially less, technically yes. Because otherwise, if I said to you, hey, I have something I need to get done here really quick, I need you to get me a report by the end of the day. And I said, well, when does he plan to report on, like, what does he plan to use that data? Indefinitely. Technically, it's indefinite. I haven't told you when. But the fact that I told you, get it to me by today, gives a reasonable person would understand that it's not a year from, why would I ask for it today? So when his thing goes, delay and a report should be on my desk within 2 weeks, we would say that he plans to make a decision within a reasonable period of 2 weeks. Like, because otherwise, why would he ask for a report if it's meant to be infinite, or just, I don't know, then why would I give any sort of time limit on those things? And so the problem is, but if you someone just to go, well, I don't believe it because Trump and he's an idiot, and I don't like
Yeah.
every time I run into the wall where it goes, everyone thinks. I guess the most common criticism I get is, I'm like, you're being naive because they're being so evil and bad faith, and I'm like, if we're at that, if you're at that point, if you truly are at, they're all evil and bad faith, it's over. There's no like it's a blank check for yourself. You can never escape it because I can always just say, you have a secret meaning, or I don't think that's true. I think you're being bad faith. At which point, there's nothing you can say or do. I've given myself carte blanche to believe or do anything, and that's what's fucking that's what scares me. That's what scares me about when people like get like super partisan is they start doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and and that's what really, I guess, saddened me about my first time being, well, only time I've been able to talk with Destiny was debate. Was, I came into the DGG world because I think I first started seeing him in 2020 just being like a proud Biden advocate, which I feel like I didn't see any of them. Like everyone voting for Biden, the only reason they gave was because I hate Trump. And Destiny was like the first guy saying like, oh no, here's why I want to vote for Biden. Like the affirmative case, that. And he also started going on like the red pill shows. I was like, okay, this guy's like a sane, reasonable left-wing guy. And he's researched and articulate and funny. Like, okay, cool. I can like look to him for my left-wing perspectives. And it's because he approached those conversations like with that that aura of, let's actually have a conversation, let's talk facts, let's try and get to some meeting of the minds here. But really after the Trump assassination attempt, and then of course the Charlie Kirk, it's like that like belief that I can have a reasonable conversation with someone on the right just completely went out the window.
Yeah,
And
I think he said that.
Yeah. And so that was my mistake going in the debate, because I was going in thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to be one of the guys. I can show him that you can have a good faith, reasonable discussion. And his first question to me was, did you vote for Trump all 3 times? I said, yeah. And then he said, did you enjoy it when you saw the blood shooting out of Charlie Kirk's neck? Because that's what you voted for. It's like, oh, okay.
We're doing like, you think that's, yeah, no, the problem is, yeah, there's no way if someone's starting there, like, again, their point is not, Destiny is fully capable of having very productive conversations, even with people he disagrees with. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's some of my favorite ones. There's one with Paul, I think, from like he's a podcaster. He knows like The Amazing Atheist. I forget what his like, but he was a lefty and he's had great conversations. There's times where he's fed up. The thing is, and I can't blame. He's been doing this for a decade. I don't know if I would become broken and jaded probably in a year. I doubt I could do it for 10 years. I get that if you've had the same conversation 100 times and you're just sick of it, you're just done with it. That like that the 100th person doesn't realize that they're the 100th person and they're sick of having the same conversation. And also that I go, are you about to rehash an argument he's already had a million times? Paul's ego, yeah, great guy. I like him. Again, he's a lefty. I don't know. I like listening to people who I listen far more to left-leaning people than I do to right-leaning because.
Oh yeah, same, 100%. And that's what when I realized I was doing that, I was like, I had to stop and think like, why is that? And I think it is just because I do kind of crave the conflict, because I have my belief system, I have my belief set, and I already know like I could go look up what someone on the right would say about given issue, and I feel like I already know what they're going to say. But like to hear from the left where it's like not only are they going to disagree, but it's like a good strong disagreement. That's I think it's helpful though. It's helpful to like sharpen yourself constantly.
I want the thoughts framed in a position that I don't want it like given to me in a way that I'm already supposed to agree with. I want it given to me in a way that I'm not, that's supposed to make my side look bad. I want the best case possible for why my thoughts are wrong, because it also helps me look up things. Because odds are, because even like I've watched like Charlie Kirk debates. There's things like where he mentions where I'm like, well, that's and then I've had people like go, hey, could you watch this and then tell me where is it wrong kind of thing, or is this thing right? And you go, I can point out why it's wrong, but it's almost sometimes it's an uninteresting kind of wrong. Where if someone is on the left, they're explaining something, pointing out why they're wrong is more interesting, or finding out what it is they think the problem is, because then I can zero in on that. But like, so if someone is in favor of you, but for a wrong reason, it's not really that interesting to try and go, okay, you're right, but your reasoning is stupid. That's not very fun. But if someone says you're wrong for these reasons, you can look into saying, am I actually wrong or not? And then you can pull those things up. And so like, there's been a lot of things like the Abrego Garcia or things like that, where I can go, it's interesting to look up the things where people who want something that and want you to feel that way, or to go say like, did that happen? Did that occur? It is also very black pilling. I don't know if you've ever tried, like most people know so little about our governmental structure, how anything works, but also something else, particularly about Destiny himself, is that his intuitions are incredibly spot on when he's on the defensive, So like if the first court case thing, like I don't know, like I've been watching just his coverage of it. The number of things that he's able to intuit of why, like, so people were attacking him. He's able to intuit why they're full of shit without ever, like, no law school, no knowing the law. He just goes, I'm pretty sure there's something like this. You go, you're right. Do you know why? Because you're on the defense, because you realize that you're being wrong. That the amount of thing where it goes, the person's trying to pervert laws to get you, you can explain why perverting laws is bad. That even if the law says something that it doesn't, like people seem to think that as soon as a law is on their side, it means they win. Have you done litigation at all?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I mean, right now I'm doing criminal defense and then family law and then just kind of general civil. Anything I can handle myself. If it's like a big complex, I don't do any of that.
Have you ever been up against a pro se or a pro per plaintiff?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Okay. So do you there's a rule that says the court can't treat them differently than someone who's represented because that'd be unfair. However, in practice, they are given endless amounts of leeway.
Yep.
It's because they're not just because yes, they do have to be treated the same, but attorneys are not allowed to use that to like screw with them. You're not allowed to screw with the pro. Like if any judge catches a whiff that you're just trying to mess with them, they will say you're dishonoring the profession. So, but remember, but that doesn't violate the rule. They are being given special treatment. They're not allowed to be given like they get extra time just because of this. However, you aren't allowed to pervert that law to your own benefit. If you're doing that, we'll smack you down. And so a lot of laws are that way. A lot of rules are saying where someone goes, I think I can come up with a reason why this should, like, that goes, I can read this as a way of, I think it's included. And you go, the law was never intended for that. The person just doesn't like the person and is trying to come up with some rationale. The problem is what you're doing is perverting the law. Mm-hmm. And specifically with, I don't get specifically to Dusty's case, but I find his particularly interesting because there's people that hate him so much.
Yeah.
That there's people that have it's bizarre to see their legal analysis and go, my God, I'm so glad. Like, I don't know how, like, we survive only by the skin of like people who actually go to law school and who understand the purpose of laws, because my God, these people they destroy us all in a day and take no responsibility for it.
Yeah. And I mean, gosh, that's, okay. I got a lot I want to say to that, but first I want to bring it back. Chapingaro was saying something about our 2 + 2 = 4, and I don't quite understand it, but I'm just going to give the warning now. But don't get banned, Chapingaro. If what you're saying here is anything that's not 2 + 2 = 4, that is blasphemy.
2 + 2 is equal to 5 for sufficiently large values of 2. Doesn't make any sense. But no, well, the thing is, the one way you would put it is saying like, the problem is anything you try and do will usually end up creating a variable. So if I said like the maximum occupancy of an elevator is 4 people, that doesn't mean 4 of any people. It means 4 of an average. It means a weight that averages those 4 people. But so someone could say, well, no, I can put one person who weighs 800 pounds on there and break the elevator. So apparently 1 is equal to 4. And the answer is that's 1x is equal to 4y. Y being an average person, x being an overweight person. And so those times, but the problem is that's generally what people go to when they try and like mess with them is they'll add variables.
Okay. See, I like that. You know, there's a, for all you non-lawyers in the audience, there's a joke that all lawyers make when math comes up and say, see, this is why I went to law school. And I've rejected that my whole career because I'm not a math whiz, but I'm definitely no scrub. And so I'm glad we can do some math on the channel. We got some legally inclined mathematicians.
Yeah, math was my best subject in school. So
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
In college, I didn't go to class. I just showed up for tests.
I want to bring it back. I was just kind of scrolling through the Wick chat to see if there's anything else interesting. And actually, the very last comment is a guy talking about how beer has calories and that people drank beer for sustenance all throughout history. And, you know, that is so right.
Yeah.
I wish I thought of that.
The problem you're running, because the thing is that sometimes what you're trying to do is you're trying to narrow down what they're actually saying because they don't actually care. They're trying to, they're making up on the spot what it doesn't feel right. They know in their head it's alcohol shouldn't be in. They don't know why. And so they're going to go, well, why is soda less calories? Is that it? Well, no, the other thing, because again, part of it is you're deconstructing language as well. You're doing the same thing. How do you know why should beer be in? And you're deconstructing the concept of food and saying, well, calories. Well, this has calories. Like chairs have 4 legs. Computer chairs only have 1. Like you're doing the same thing. But part of it is they're inviting. If they say like everything is in, they go, but they try and make an exception. Go like, well, not alcohol. I'm like, okay, so you're aware of the concept of exceptions. If I deconstruct it, it doesn't work anymore. You understand? Okay, so then stop deconstructing mine. Like I can accept and go, you're right. Alcohol and soda aren't the same thing. You can understand that soda has more nutritional value than a beer, that alcohol has a certain aspect of, we understand what alcohol is, why children don't have it. And like, we can just accept it. I don't have to get detailed to you the chemical breakdown of alcohol. If someone wants you to, then it's, what's the word? It's like someone demanding that you prove object permanence to them. It goes, prove to me that objects exist when I don't see them. Otherwise, I won't continue this conversation. You just go like, at which point I go, we've hit that. If you can't accept, if you believe that soda is nutritional, that you believe that if someone said, I'm trying to be more nutritious in my diet, and you'd recommend soda, that could be an answer, a response to you. Like, maybe add more soda to your diet. That'll help you out. You're like, then it's a fundamental breakdown. We've hit, again, it's like someone saying, I don't believe in objects that don't see. I can't get that person anywhere. There's no hope. And so once he hit that point, I think, pointing it out, I think was the best thing. And just saying like, don't respond to those deconstructions. You basically have to point out that it's a deconstruction. I think, the what is a woman, I think was a good answer, but just, I wouldn't have used that one just because you don't want to get in the gender thing. I think the what is a chair is,
Yeah. And that's what, I mean,
I need to find
anything they could grasp onto to try and deflect back to, because once they came to that point of like, well, it's because alcohol's a drug. In hindsight, I could have drilled down on that to be like, okay, so why should a drug not be included?
If it gives, why should not? Well, I mean, drugs have sustenance value, and all that. If it lowers their despair or whatever, it says like your standards are bizarre. It goes that it. I'm trying to think of like, how do you reach it? Is it say that, because I suspect none of them read what the thing is about. They have a thought in their head that goes, I want people to have anything that gives benefits to people that they like. So and it goes, I like it that people have money and can buy food, and it makes me feel warm in my tummy. It feels like that's the ultimate position. And the problem is you go, and they go, well, why can't they have cookies? You're right. Why not cookies and soda? Why not Disneyland tickets? Why not? They go, that we can do this forever.
I wanted to get to that point, but I felt like that would have just derailed. Every time I thought of bringing up that point, I feel like, gosh, I feel like this would just completely derail the discussion we're having now. And I feel like their answer would be, well, no, because it's not food, which is like not the point we're making. The point we're making is, should people, it's the dignity point.
Buy food at Disneyland. And he goes, why not? Like, if someone wants to buy food at Disneyland, why shouldn't they be allowed to buy food at Disneyland? And the problem is that, again, they can turn off the empathy and warm tummy feeling whenever they want. And they go, no, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but you just told me is to stop the depths of despair and the despair of poverty and to alleviate hunger. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't just to alleviate hunger by any means necessary, by any cost necessary. We have limited resources, and therefore the program can be more efficient. That if you spend all your money on milkshakes, you're not getting a lot of sustenance for our $100. Like $100 isn't going to get you money of that. But potatoes, oh my God, can you get a crap ton of carbs, all that stuff? And a potato, you need a microwave and some butter, or even not even a butter. I mean, dude, a baked potato.
But they can't get microwaves, don't you see?
That's the other part. Is you go that I don't know how to get past that as well. I've seen, because another thing, as someone, I originally I'm still a Destiny viewer. Usually when he's having conversation with people, I don't really watch the politics stuff anymore. But I just liked watching him have conversation with people about like different issues, and it could be like scalping sometimes, housing. And I've seen it happen 1,000 times, where anytime he tries to give advice to anyone, someone's response is like, because there's an exception, I can sit here and do nothing. Where it's like, one was like rent, where he says, if your rent is too high, you might, like, moving is probably a good thing you should be looking to do. And someone goes, moving is like one of the most stressful things possible, and not everyone can find a place. There's not always he goes, there's always an excuse. That goes, you can, and then which one he goes, fine, then just sit there and die, I guess. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That goes, if your answer is there's an infinite excuses why I can do nothing, then I guess the world's over. I guess we just give up. But the idea of saying there is an exception, therefore do nothing.
Yeah, and that was actually a really interesting point that, I don't keep bringing up Destiny, but it was his debate with Ben Shapiro on Lex Friedman. He made a point that I found really, I thought, compelling, actually, which was, he was basically saying, well, can't we just agree that maybe, free nationwide school lunches is like a good idea? And we've got data and studies that show that when there are free lunches, it reduces, or no, it wasn't free lunches.
It was free lunching and air conditioning, the two things.
AC. Yep.
AC and food.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, I agree, that's a reasonable proposition. And Ben basically kind of was like, well, that won't solve the problem. We need to do all these other things to also solve the problem. And Destiny made, I think, a correct observation, calling it the conservative merry-go-round, where it's like, just because you identify other problems that also need to be addressed, that's precluding you from addressing the problem I've presented to you and the solution I've presented to you. Yeah. And I thought that was actually a really apt observation. I never even thought about that before, because I think sometimes conservatives can kind of fall into that.
Yep.
But I've applied that logic to so many things of what the left does now, that when we've got our reasonable solution, like here, so simple, let's just remove soda from SNAP. That's all we're asking. Well, what do you think about juice? What do you think about Pop Tarts? It's like,
They have
okay,
700,000 questions they're going to ask you before they ever. And again, at the end of it, they're not going to communicate with you.
yeah, and that's why in my closing, I try to distinguish the two just by saying, look, if we're constructing my perfect nutritional assistance program, yeah, I'm going to be excluding a lot of those things. But that's not the prompt of what we're talking about tonight. We're just talking about whether soda should be on there, which it comes down to a very simple, basic question: is soda healthy and nutritious? And
question,
y'all don't
what
want
is
to answer the
soda?
question. Yeah, what
What
is
is
soda?
nutrition?
How do we define it? Which actually brings me, I want to bring up what they're saying with Chipingo and Zero Fucks. Yeah, Zero Fucks also made it seem like it was an impossible task to drop a list of what to ban. FDA already classifies carbonated soft drinks, so such a list could just cite the FDA. Chipingo says, I was thinking that too. Don't all food products have to be classified FDA approved before they can go to supermarket shelves anyway?
There's a lot of court cases on definitions. Like, what is low fat? Like, they fight each other on like, can I be called low fat yogurt? Can I be like that? These are all things that say classifications, and do they get them or not? And it goes, the idea that you individually have to name every single one before they'll accept it. You say, that's not how this will ever work. If you say like, I have to define soda to you who refuse to communicate, you're right. I can't define it to you. That doesn't mean we don't know what soda is.
Yeah. Let me,
He said,
I'm learning here.
but
share screen. Here we go.
But also, Destiny, the thing is, actually, I know what you're talking about. And actually, I completely agreed with him on like, actually, I really liked his argument on that, was saying that for both food and because people go like, oh, well, it's a parent's job to feed them. You're like, you're right, it is. We're not doing this because we don't think parents should have to feed them. It says that in school, we have issues with disruption and that we have, all of us benefit from kids not misbehaving in class. Everyone's had that troublemaker who makes it impossible for learning for everyone. And so saying that, yep, there are shitty parents who apparently starve their children. The thing is, if we alleviate ourselves, so if we just say, fine, we will provide school lunches to people and we'll have AC in the buildings, that will make it a better learning environment for all of us. Because remember, your kids are going to have to endure those kids who didn't get food and are suddenly acting out. And so it goes, yeah, to an extent. And it goes, how much is it going to cost? If I can pitch to you to say, look, we can create a program that can provide food to schools that'll be available to everyone, that won't cost, like, it's not going to make some massive cost. It's not going to be some exploding thing. It makes these school, because the thing is, school lunches, they usually are done in like in mass numbers, so you can do it in mass quantity type stuff. And again, you can do them nutritiously. You can do it. There's a way to do this, and don't do it because you think that we're nannying them. Do it because the fact is, we all need our kids to be able to go to school. It's a thing that we require them to be at school, and we want it to be a productive learning environment. Because those kids who are not getting fed by their parents, their ability to learn is being hampered, and it's not really their fault; it's their parents' fault. And he goes, fine, they're shitty parents, and their shitty parenting is going to cause you issues. Mm-hmm. So I can pitch a program that says AC and school lunches will lower that. Because I can show you that goes, it will lower it for all of us. It will not benefit just them. It'll benefit all of us. You're right. I don't want to reward bad behavior either, but that isn't worth it. It's not worth sacrificing all of our school. Like, I'm saying that we can create a program that'll benefit us all, and just say, I get it, they're assholes. I get it, they're incompetent. You want to call them stupid and jerks. We're not doing this to be nice to them. We're doing this for the benefit of us all. And so this is an answer we can functionally do. And that's how I normally try and pitch it, basically.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Chipingro. I guess, cause I wasn't quite getting this at first either with some of these numbers, but I think I get it now. The argument is the SNAP recipients spend less money and spend less time shopping at stores. Is that how I'm reading that right? Because yeah, they spend, average monthly spend on groceries is plus 20%. So they spend more, 20% more than a non-SNAP. So okay, so we're showing kind of a lack of discernment of like, oh, let me just go buy whatever I want, basically, not even have to worry about prices. Because guess what? It's paid for.
Yeah, that was another frustrating thing. The idea of fungible. It's not. If they're so rich that like all their money's, like, whatever I don't have in Snap, I'll just spend it anyways with my own money. I'm like, wait. If you have that, what are you talking about? I thought you just told me you're in such dire need that you need money to buy food. And the answer is, nah, I'll just funge it. It's all fungible to me. I'm like, money's not fungible when you don't have enough of it, because you have to, like, you have necessities. That's the whole point. So if it's that fungible, you don't need the benefits, because if you're just gonna go, oh, I'll just shift my money elsewhere. You have other money to shift. Okay, then you don't need the benefit. Then you don't need the program. Just shift your money. Just do it on your own. Then you don't need us at all.
Yeah.
And the idea of saying, like, if you don't give me this, I'll stop paying my house payment so I can buy more candy. So just let me buy candy with this. I'm like, that's not an argument either. I don't buy the whole. Actually, there was an image, like, it shows, if you've ever watched, there was like, as a kid, the show Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a point when like he's the guy like to prevent the other guy from even playing a move in the card game. He stands on the edge of a thing. And goes, if you do that move, the wind blast will knock me off this and kill me. So it goes, so you can't play the game because it'll kill me. And you're like, no, that's not a valid move. The idea of saying like I'll destroy myself if you dare like do anything to me, and therefore it's my responsibility. It's the same thing as like the person going, if you break up with me, I'll kill myself, and it'll be you're a murderer. You're like, that's not how this works. The idea of like I will, if you don't let my SNAP benefits go to M&Ms, I will stop like buying shoes for my kid to buy M&Ms. So you better make him.
Well, I've been seeing TikToks. I didn't want to bring this up because I knew they were just going to say, well, that's anecdotal, or you can always find crazies on TikTok. But it's like these SNAP recipients, now they say they are. Who knows if they actually are? They probably are. But they're like, well, if I can't get my SNAP for this month, I'm just going to have to go loot it all. And it's like, it's the, yeah, I'm so surprised they were so offended by my characterization of their argument as the soft bigotry of low expectations. Like, it's just evident that that's how you're treating these people. That like, well, they
don't have this person is apparently armless, legless, no microwave, no anything. It goes, it's the same, like I said, that I've seen this 1,000 times, like in the conversation where it goes, hey, sometimes your living expenses are too high, you can lower them. Well, what if it's one of the most stressful things possible and I don't have time? What if they work 7 hours a week? And what if they don't have legs? And what if they don't, there's an infinite excuse. There's no way you will always have an excuse to do nothing. And so long as you choose to do nothing, you can always just tell me why you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I saw recently Terry Crews, actually, the actor, who is no conservative thought leader or anything, but he was doing a podcast and he said something to the effect of, you will never run out of valid excuses. And I think that's a good way of looking at it, because certainly, well, we can look at someone's excuses and be like, that's not a valid excuse. But to that person, they probably do feel like this is valid.
Yep.
This is a valid reason why I can't do it. And to have that mentality of like, yeah, because there's plenty of things in my life that pop up on the daily that's like, okay, I'm trying to get better about going to work out in the gym in the morning. And when I tell you, man, when that 6 a.m. alarm goes off, I'm like, every morning I have the thought of like, oh, I don't think I got enough sleep last night. I think I woke up.
How effective would it be?
Yeah.
I didn't really eat enough protein. Like, I'm not sure how much benefit I'm going to get from it. I mean, I do have some other things I need to take care of. And you're like, maybe it is better that I have an hour more. Like, you'll come up with something if you really want to. Like, that's the hard. It's so hard. It's so easy. Man, is it easy to give yourself excuses? And it's like, that's so tempting. It's why you like, even like if you're overweight, it's so easy to go like, what is it like? I mean, what does one more matter? I didn't even work out today. So I mean, whether I eat, is it really going to change? No, not really. So I mean, it's an infinite. It's hard to overcome that obstacle. And when people try and just force it and go, nope, I'm going to demand the obstacle stay there. Now fill this government program. And you're like, that.
Yeah.
My God,
pick me up and push me over it. I'm just going to sit here limp, and I need you to carry me over the obstacle.
Until you perfectly define soda, I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what to, like I said, there's part of it just says that it's a fundamental breakdown that runs into, they're not having the conversation I think that they want to have. It's the same thing when you guys had that conversation about the whole shutdown thing.
Yeah.
There's no point in having a conversation about who's shutting down the government. The Democrats are. The conversation you want to have is said, is the program that they are doing it for important enough that this is the right answer? They have, because you could make that argument and say, look, we have limited levers. We're the minority. We believe this thing is very important. Here's why we think it's important. And therefore, we are going to use this devastating lever to do it because we think it's worth it. That's a conversation worth having if you wanted. But the problem is that means you have to know about those things. But it's instead, if I just go, I'm not doing it, like then that's what you should get the bizarro conversation you had, which just says, I'm not doing the thing I'm doing. Also, give me what I want so I can stop. And then that way I'll vote yes and allow it to do the thing that I'm saying I'm not doing.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same. I mean, it's the whole affirmative action argument, right? It's the well, the way it currently works, it's just one factor among many, and it's really not that important, and it really doesn't weigh on the outcome really at all. But also, it's super duper important. That's why we have to keep it, because it's rectifying historic injustice. It's like, wait, either it's happening or it's not. Like, you can't just claim both. And that's probably my new favorite political observation, which it applies to both sides, right and left. But it's not happening, but it's also good that it is happening.
Yeah, I think it's not happening. If it is, it's good. If it isn't that bad, and if it is that bad, then it's good. And if it is like, and if it's not good, then like you're evil. Like then there's never an answer. It's always just the next thing. And
Yeah.
that when it comes to affirmative action, one is to say that it assumes that there's one uniform way in which all affirmative action is applied. It's not. And so the idea is this is all it is. I'm like, how did you? No one. They're pulling that out of their butts. The number of times where someone tells me something, the reality is it's just a kind of like an intuition that they have, and they go like, surely this is all it means. And you're like, how did you classify that?
Our boy
Um,
Ryan.
yeah,
That's right. Well, I'm glad you got through all of it because, yeah, man, it's I think to to focus on that, and also a point you said earlier, Zetsui, about like how do we handle when it is just like such a clear like intentional obfuscation, breakdown in communication. I really think the solution. I think what I did tonight is probably about as effective as it can get as far as try to boil it down into like such a clear, concise question that if they want to play the game where they're going to pretend they don't know what's happening, it's just so obvious to everybody. Like I don't know what else you can really do because if you want to go down the rabbit hole with them, it will never end. It will be infinite. So I think to try and stop, crystallize exactly what you want them to answer to expose the intellectual cowardice, and then ask that question. And when they pivot away, bring it right back and ask the question again. I think that I can't really think of anything else that
yeah.
could
Because when I've had
potentially
the
be effective.
conversations, like I said, because I was trying to think of like how I still don't have a good answer, actually, a perfect answer. Because if someone goes, "Well, do you think soda's nutritional? What do you think soda is, and what is like? I think it has calories in it, it has carbs, like so it has nutritional value, does it not?" And you're like, is that what you think I meant? If I like, we could play almost like Jeopardy, where it goes like we asked 100 people, name the most nutritious food you can think of. How many do you think say soda? Top 5 most nutritious foods. You think any of them name soda? Name 5 just nutritious foods, period. Do you think any of them name soda?
Yeah,
That I don't have to give you a perfect definition. It just says, do you seriously need me to converse with you that goes, we could just agree that soda isn't nutritious? And the answer is, we're not the ones, we don't need to give you a specific definition for the specific applicable laws. I don't need to program the entire thing for you right in front of you for us to move forward. We can just agree that no, soda is not nutritious and therefore it's not included. And saying that, especially it's cash to nutritional value, even if you said it has some amount of nutrition, it has detrimental nutrition, like sugar that is detrimental, and any carbs that's a high price to. It's not. No doctor recommends soda as your way of like, hey, you're getting kind of heavy. I think you need to drink more soda. You're like,
I'm just thinking of the doctor that takes in the overweight, obese patient and is like, okay, tell me about your diet, and they're like, well, I have a soda with pretty much every meal. Is that good for me? And just the doc, I'm imagining the doctor coming back. Well, it's a spectrum of health, and
yeah,
well, it's sophomoric. I don't really want to go too deep into it. It's like, no, obviously, if I had a coworker back when I was a DA, who he had a soda with basically every meal, and he was really putting on weight, and we would tell him every day, like, bro, the one thing you can do, um,
stop drinking soda.
is cut out the soda, or at least, and he started like bringing in like the small mini cans. At least that's an improvement, but
Yeah, it's still,
still,
especially if you drink, probably end up just drinking more of those basically. So it's like,
yeah.
don't worry, I drank
Oh,
3 mini cans rather than a.
another moment that I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. I wasn't even trying to like do it. I got no. I'll say I was trying to do a gotcha on Stardust with the daily sugar question on Coke because I wanted I wanted to see if she'd be willing to actually ballpark it at first, just because I knew it wasn't going to be anywhere near the actual number, which is 78%. So yeah, I'll admit that was a attempted gotcha, which I guess she smartly avoided by just saying I don't know, I have no clue, I don't know,
Yeah. Well,
and yeah,
I feel like I wish there was a way to more narrowly scope these conversations because it feels like so when someone comes in and says like it's about making people not hungry and alleviating despair, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay. If that was the conversation, is does this alleviate despair? And I'm like, that is too vague and like I don't even. I mean, that alcohol then includes. I mean, that would alleviates
yeah,
plenty of people's
man.
despair to extent. Like, and then suddenly it's
Alcohol's a
no longer
happy
about
drug.
alleviating despair. It just goes because there is nothing standard. And also, if they come in just with their like I said, a warm feeling in their tummy, then suddenly you say like, well, that's not the origin points of it. I don't know the origin points of it.
Yeah.
And
By
that's
the
go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. I know if Ryan's still here, I don't know if he's just passing through, but if you want to hop on and break it down too, then by all means, you're more than welcome. The reasonable right. We ride again.
I just wish I could think of. I'm trying to think of how to escape these things. So far, I haven't figured it out. Like that, or even because the thing is, you're not even trying to escape it. You need to find a way to point it out. Like I said, what is a woman? Is it similar? Like you're trying to point out to say, what is this person doing? Does everyone understand that he's just deconstructing language? That there's no, but there's people that will do that, and like if they're fans of it, will think that it works. So it's like if someone just is refuses to understand, and then their whole audience hates you, they'll just play along with it and play along like, oh yeah, and they'll say like, this guy doesn't, he can't even define soda. It's like that isn't what happened. But if you want to pretend that that's what happened, then everyone just goes along with it. And it just says that I don't really know how to avoid. I wish like if only there was like an actual term for doing that. Like I wish there was a debate bro term for it, where it's like,
Hey, maybe that's our task. We should come up with one and see if we can.
Destiny's a list called like debate pervertry. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember what those, but yeah, but the thing is, you're trying to come up with something to say that to point out what someone's doing, because that's all you can do. Because if someone tries to deconstruct language, you can't argue them out of it.
yeah,
Like any more than goes, because like if you said, if I told you to find a chair and I said do it such that I can't poke holes in it, you can't do it. And I can do it. I can be bad faith endlessly and just bring up other things of chairs and bring up things that aren't chairs that fit the criteria you gave me.
yeah,
That oftentimes words are meant to convey our thoughts. All it is our best attempt to convey what's in our head. And so, and if you don't mind me just changing a little bit, there's one thing that I've seen come up a lot of times is when it says, who is black? And the answer is it's very easy to know who's black when nothing's on the line. But I've seen conversations regarding reparations that descend so quickly when we say, wait a second, reparations for black people. For the purposes of this, who is black and who isn't?
Mm-hmm.
I go, if there's a white person, but they have black ancestry, does that person get full benefits? Or do they get a benefit based on their ancestry? Do they have to have, it goes, suddenly, who is black? Because there is now something attached to it, we actually don't know who is and who isn't technically by anyone's standards, but it doesn't come up in common conversation. Because if I'm just like, hey, do you know where the bathroom is? And I'm like, yeah, you see that black guy over there? It's over by him. Like, I don't need to have a discussion on blood makeup and how does it relate to it? Are you an immigrant? How long have you been here? Have you suffered? Like, none of those things come into play. But as soon as something has attached to it, suddenly we go, none of these terms will function for that purpose anymore.
Yeah, no, and gosh, yeah, no, we really should come up with a term. We can try and coin it,
because I think you're going to run into that a lot.
I think so too. And maybe it's I don't want to say it's the curse of knowledge, the burden of knowledge, but I think especially when we are talking about some more legal topics, I feel like that's going to come up a lot more. Or you'll get the girl from the shutdown debate who at least she was honest when she said, "I don't care about the law." I'm like, okay, well, points for honesty on that. It's just,
but that should break people in more ways. You know what's it's probably one of those like almost disheartening things possible is when someone is completely ignorant of the law while telling you that you're like, they have no concept of what even any of this stuff is, yet they feel so like, oh my God, how is this person a lawyer? And you're like, I'm right and you're wrong. And yet you're challenging me on why, like that you can't believe I'm a lawyer. I'm like, you're this ignorant of this stuff. And I'm like, I guess it's part of just because the thing is, I don't mind that they're doing it. It's frustrating to go like, it's disheartening to say that you're so belligerent, you're so angry in your ignorance. It just says like, you don't understand how the law works and you're so angry that you're going to refuse anything I say basically. And you're not going to care. It goes eventually it's going to come down to, I just don't care.
Yeah. And that's how I think that's how you've won. I mean, if you have the feeling you're winning the whole time going down the rabbit hole as they get more and more insane. And then that's, I think the nail in the coffin is when they're finally just like, well, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care about the law. It goes, and it's surprising how quickly, how much they bounce back and forth between that. They care deeply about the law when it's on their side, and then they care nothing about the law when it's not on their side, which ultimately means that they never care. Like, I mean, ultimately, when it comes, people declare themselves in caring what they care about, what they say they care about, what they actually care about, are generally not the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was most laid bare for me after we saw months of the most anti-police, anti-law enforcement rhetoric and actions that the country, I would say, has ever seen, as far as when we talk about the scale of it with 2020. Like, it was months of this defund the police nonsense. And all of us on the right were like, this is insane. And then you get the one day, January 6th, where the Trumpies were fighting with police and beating them over the head with sticks and whatnot. And like, yeah, that was horrendous. But now it's like the Democrats feel like they've got that in the bag of like, oh, we're the pro law enforcement party because you're the party of January 6th. It's like, did we? It was because it was so close in time too. We're talking about just a few months apart of a complete 180, and they've stuck to it since then. Of like, we are the you can't be pro law enforcement. You can't be pro law and order. That's the phrase. Like
Yeah.
how can you be the law and order president when you're the January 6th president or the party of
Or the same
January
thing
6th?
as the thing is that anytime where someone goes that you have to goes, no, I don't. I don't have. I never said it was good. I said it was bad. I don't know how that's pro that. You're like, well, you have to do exactly what I tell you. No, I don't. I don't have to do anything you want me to do. I can just say I'm against it. And you go, the actions that follow don't have to be what you personally want from me. The idea of
Yeah.
saying, like, do you agree Jan 6 is bad? Yes, I do. Okay, then you have to vote for the Democrat. No, I don't. Well, then you're in favor of it. No, I'm not. That the number of times where people will try and decide for you what you have to do to hold the position you hold. I think I watched that a lot in Erudite and Ryan's conversation, where you decide, and I actually seen a lot of conversation where someone will decide that says, if you believe this, you must believe that. And they'll take something like, if you believe in liberty, then you have to hate Trump. I'm like,
Right.
those are abstract concepts, and no, I don't. And the thing is, and the other part goes, it's one value I hold of. I don't want to kill anyone. That's a principled stance. I don't want to. I don't like. I just don't want to do it.
And
However, if someone was about to kill me and I kill someone, you go, well, I guess you never held that. It goes, no, I have another one. I don't want to die. And so it goes, one of these two values. I have a ton of competing values that all have to clash against each other. Right. And so and one of them it doesn't mean I don't hold it. It just means there's times where I have to say one has to give way to the other because I can't have them both. It doesn't mean I don't hold them as principles.
And you know what's so crazy too? I just had this realization. They meaning the left, or some of these actors we're talking about, will grill you when you're not subscribing to their definition of a concept like liberty or justice, which are, like you said, they're very abstract concepts that have a lot of different meanings and a lot of different situations. Yep. But then when you say, can we agree to a definition of soda? It's like, well, I don't really know. And then
exactly.
It's like, and then, it's the righteous or not righteous. It's just the flat out indignation that they'll take when you don't subscribe to their definition of these really big abstract concepts.
Even things like due process goes that these people are being reported out due process. He goes, what is due process to you? What process were they entitled to? They didn't get, I don't know. Like, so what are you doing? Like, or I've had that the number of times with like the Braver Garcia in particular, the amount of reading I've had to do, and only to find out that no one knows anything. Where it's like, I've had to go, someone starts off with, he's a U.S. citizen. No, he's not. Well, he was here legally. No, he wasn't. Well, he had a pending asylum claim. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
And it goes, he wasn't MS-13. Who are you to, like, part of it comes down to a lot of times where you don't always want to fight. Don't fight on, like, no, he's not. Because if someone said to me, is Braver Garcia MS-13? I have no idea. He goes, well, here, like, and he goes, I'm supposed to assess the evidence. In what world do you think I don't know how to identify them. There's people that's like, there's ways in which you can make people think who have no concept of something believe that they have some sort of expertise without it. That things, especially as an attorney, you probably are aware of the number of times where clients will like think they've read something, think they know what it means, and then get angry when it doesn't go their way because they think they've already figured it all out. And you're like, you should understand, they go, that's not how any of this works. And
no, literally, I just the case is closed out now, so I can talk a little bit more about it. But my most frustrating case I dealt with the last month was a lady who took a vehicle in for repairs, and then on the way back home, there was issues and it broke down again, had to be taken back. She ends up disputing her payment to them. And now there's this whole big debacle of like, where did the money actually go? Did it get refunded back? Did it get debited to the dealership? And she's just like nonstop about like what she wants to do and what she wants to happen. Like, we need to get the attorney general involved and we need to sue. And I'm like, and in the meantime, the dealership the whole time had an offer on the table. It's like, if you just come in, bring your card, we'll refund the amount back to your card. And then you just pay us in cash or cash your check. And all we're going to do is require you sign a non-dispute anymore because we don't want you disputing this stuff again. And she just refused to accept those terms. And it was literally a month straight of trying to like guide her towards, because like anytime I would say anything that she didn't want to hear, she'd tell me, well, you sound like their attorney now. Like, whose attorney are you? Are you mine or theirs? It's like, I'm yours. I'm trying to get you the best outcome possible, but you just don't want to accept it. So yeah, no, that one literally just resolved yesterday. And but it was, the whole thing was built on, she just felt like she knew how it was supposed to go. And but she had no legal basis for any of it. And I'm here giving her the legal basis, and now she thinks like I'm the op.
That's why it's, like I said, like the particularly like the whole Destiny case that's pending right now. It's been fascinating to listen to, especially like the people who don't like him talk about it and hear them. How else the number of times all of them call for like sanctions and disbarment and how this should be disqualifying as an attorney. And you're like, you guys understand that every motion involves someone losing, right?
Yeah.
It's like where someone's like, this is a constitutional crisis. It's like, you understand that every single Supreme Court case is a dispute about the Constitution, and someone, usually both, walk away thinking something was unconstitutionally done to them. Always, like 100% of the time, basically. Like I don't think anyone ever walks in and goes, "You both get what you want." I don't even know how you pull that one off, or why that would be in front of the Supreme Court, and yet everything is the world-ending stuff.
Yeah.
The other one is the fact that people seem to think that, and I'm actually here's your thoughts on this. People have issues with procedural due process, but a procedural due process is resolved with procedure, not substance change. Mm-hmm. So if something says like you were supposed to fill out Form 12 before doing this, you don't undo the action. You fill out Form 12. Mm-hmm. And so it's like for like the Abrego Garcia, where people seem to think that it's like, oh, you have to bring him back to America. No, they don't. That's not the. It goes. It's saying that either you have to go to the judge and have the thing not to El Salvador removed, or he has to be held someplace other than El Salvador. Mm-hmm. That's it. Those are the procedural, those are the answers. But people seem to think that goes, therefore, he should be brought back and he should be free and be given, like, none of those are responses to procedural due process violations. That's not, people want substantive change for procedural violations. You don't. You should get procedural solutions to procedural issues.
Yeah, I think the way to summarize that is not all procedural due process violations are created equal. Some of them are completely prejudicial to the case and grounds for getting the whole thing thrown out. 100%. You want to talk about Brady violations, like the prosecutors not turning over exculpatory material. That's a due process violation, and the remedy is to throw the case out.
Yep.
Alternatively, you've got breaking news. They've called the New Jersey governor race for the Democrat. So Ryan, we're disappointed in you, specifically you personally. Looks like the vote differential was over. What would that be? Almost 300,000. But Ryan, it's your fault. So just want to put that on the record. But yeah, so this is a point I'm making in covering the Tory Lanez case, which I don't know if you followed any of it. Probably not. It's on appeal right now. And I'm trying to get these people who are like all aboard, like he's going to get out, he's going to get acquitted, it's going to get overturned and thrown out. And I'm trying to counsel caution that like I don't see anything with the appeal that's like grounds for throwing the whole thing out. But I do see grounds for new trial because the judge let in an interview from a witness who she gave this pretrial interview where she basically corroborated the victim, Megan Thee Stallion, corroborated her whole story that Tory Lanez was the shooter. It was a recorded interview she gave to the prosecutors. When she took the stand, she said, yeah, I lied during that interview, and now I'm pleading the fifth to everything else you asked me. So the prosecutors, in response to that, made a motion to just admit the video as her testimony, and the judge granted it. And like, to me, that's just completely clear, flagrant confrontation clause violation because Tory Lanez's team had no ability to cross-examine her at all because they weren't part of the interview. So that's a procedural due process violation. The remedy is a remand for new trial. It's not to throw the whole thing out. So, yeah, sorry. So just to summarize all that, it's like, it's not all created equal, and I just don't think. Well, it sounds like even our attorney friends on the left seem to not understand that sometimes.
Well, I guess so you're actually right. So actually, I want to reframe my question because I said like procedural gets you a procedural outcome. It doesn't. The question is, procedure generally does, because the problem is that a violation like saying you should have done X before doing something, you just go do that thing back. But obviously, criminal is completely different because the fact is it says you've criminalized someone. But for something the other thing, actually, something surprising to me is that, so particularly with Abrego Garcia, like people not understanding why the court can't order him to do things. And that the number of people who understand Marbury versus Madison, it's like, oh, it's about judicial review. And I'm like, do you not know the outcome of that case is that it was found that it was illegal, but that the court didn't have the power to order him to do it. So therefore he was allowed to do the illegal thing because no one had the ability to tell him to do, like, that was the answer. The answer was the court understands it didn't have the power to order him to do it. So they found, yes, it was illegal for you to do it, but we don't have the power to tell you to do it. So sorry, you win.
We can review the decision and tell you
we don't have the power to do anything.
But also we don't have the power to actually enforce it. And that was the whole, whoever it was, Andrew Jackson, maybe. That was the court has ruled, now let them enforce it.
But even like the Abrego Garcia thing, I've heard people say where it's like, well, I mean, he could have just asked them. Like, you can't even ask him to ask them. You can't tell him to do anything. Facilitate just means that like the whole like buy him a plane ticket and get it. It goes for me. It goes. There's a contract. It should be whatever the contract is. Just do that basically. But the number of people where it's like just ask him. You can't tell him to call a world leader and ask. It doesn't matter how easy it is. Like I said, it's easy to tell him to go mail the little thing they already signed job acceptance thing, but they couldn't tell him to do it. It doesn't matter how simple it is or how easy or how reasonable or how like. No, you can't tell him to conduct foreign policy. They can't order like any more than the court could order someone to go to war. They can't order the court can't order the other branches to use their powers in a way that they want them to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
and the other part is courts can't always grant all remedies are not available always. It's like there was one thing I was reading about, like when it comes to like especially with the civil immunity where it goes, it's above the law. Like you are not entitled to whatever remedy you specifically want. That doesn't mean someone's above the law because you can't say like, well, if you steal something from me, I should be allowed to kill you. Oh, you're above the law? Like, no, you're not entitled to that remedy.
Well, great example. Did you study federal courts, federal jurisdiction at all?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Perfect example. Before 1983 was made a thing, there was no remedy. Your civil rights could be completely flagrantly violated under the Equal Protection Clause, under the 5th and 14th Amendments, all that good stuff. But there was no federal cause of action that allowed you to act upon it. So in law school, something we brought up a lot was like a right without a remedy is no right at all. And yeah, so but pre-1983, there was no way to even get the remedy. But then that brings us back to Marbury v. Madison, which is the whole elements of standing is that there has to be a potential possible remedy available under law. But I guess we've all forgotten that too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is that you're not always. The thing is sometimes like you're not entitled to that remedy. So the remedy is saying like if the president is not setting out things that he's obligated to do, that he's not conducting his way properly, but we don't have the ability to do it, the punishment could be impeachment. The punishment could be him losing popularity. There's still punishments against these things. If people don't like it, like if say the president truly was like he was just not doing his job basically, and the courts go, well, we don't have the power to order him to do those things. Congress could impeach him. Yeah, like that would be the answer. The answer is impeach him. If you feel as though like these things are like you don't like what the president's doing, and you feel like that we need a consequence for him, why haven't you removed him from office? Because why is he still? If you can convince everyone that he's just so in flagrantly doing everything terrible, well, then he'd be removed. Like Congress can remove him whenever he wants for technically whatever they just decide to call misdemeanors and high crimes, whatever. And that means whatever they feel like in the morning.
Yeah.
And all you do is convince them. But if you can't do it, then you're supposed to. The idea that you could remove him against Congress, that Congress doesn't want him removed, but you personally can do it. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. All right. Quick update on the New York mayor. Nothing called yet. All it says is leaning Zoran, but he's up exactly 8% right now. And Curtis Sliwa currently is drawing 7.9% of the vote. And Eric Adams is 0.3% of the vote. So, yeah, this may be New York may be in for a rough time, and it's all thanks to our boy Curtis Sliwa. My sister she sent me some memes of his of like, because she's really not politically plugged in at all. She kind of got on the RFK train just because she's like, oh yeah, he's kind of interesting and he raises some points that you don't really hear. She's been sending me like Curtis Sliwa clips from the debates of like, Mr. Sliwa, would you take a public taxi? Well, no, not since I got shot in one. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I think they would take it because they're expensive and it's easier to call an Uber. That's why.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But no, I mean, like I said, if he wins, like I'm not hoping for anyone's failure. Like I'm not things. Also, that's the part that I don't like is sometimes when someone wins, the person you want them to fail because you don't want them to look good. I'm like, why? That can't be it, man. If someone wins, good. Like show me I'm wrong. Like I'm hoping because I hope I am wrong at that point because you're the one in charge now. Show me what you can do, or like at least give me some decent data to find out that why you were wrong, or it'll happen exactly as I plan it does. And either way, what I don't like is because there's times where people want to sabotage someone, so they want to create the problem themselves to prevent you from getting the win, or like they'll try and like redefine things. Like this way it goes, where it's like if Trump tries to do something and then you try and like the Democrats try and stop him and then go like, see, he couldn't do it. And you're like, you orchestrated it yourself. You can't orchestrate the resistance to it and then say that, haha, he couldn't do it. And you're like, that's not very impressive when you're the one, like if you're trying to make it fail and you successfully make it fail, or even like that you convince people. There's like once where they go like, people have no faith in the Supreme Court. I'm like, it's because you keep saying that's not, none of them know anything.
Yeah.
You think how many people can, if I said, name me 4 Supreme Court cases that and your thoughts on them that haven't been on Twitter?
Yeah.
I doubt anyone can do any of them. So then don't tell me you have some grand opinion on the court. You don't read any of the cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, real quick update as well. They have now officially called New York for Mamdani.
Oh, congratulations to him. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I'm with you too. It really is it's a win-win for anyone who's honest about it or is willing to look past their political priors. Because right, on the one hand, if it's an abject failure, then great. Then your political priors have been reaffirmed and you get to hold up this great example of why these ideas are terrible and should not be tried anywhere else. But on the alternative, like, and this is where the honesty part comes into it. If there's something that actually works, like, I'm curious. I need to read more into it, but I've been seeing the stat thrown around that like Baltimore homicides are like way down, and it's because the mayor has put in basically a bunch of like community programs, like after school programs,
yeah.
just a bunch of community investment type stuff, which is like, I know that was thrown around a lot in 2020 of like, well, we need just more like community intervention and whatnot. But I never, no one really actually tried it, I guess, until now. But I don't know if that's just completely
Yeah.
skewing the data or if it's
Be-
just maybe there's a natural downward trend and it just kind of is a continuation of the trend. I need to
Yeah,
read more
you
into
always
it.
have to be careful with that because the thing is, you go. I remember once my brother was saying like, "Oh, how de-escalation training was so useful." It goes, "Here's this place, like it's like New Jersey or something. They got their police firearms, or like it was like Newark, and they go, they went from 100% of all their discharges went down 100% from the prior year." And I look up, and it was like the prior year was 3 discharges from one event. It was one guy who pulled the trigger, like one cop pulled the trigger three times in one event. Are you sure you really was the de-escalation training, or was it just there was one thing that happened and one thing didn't happen this time? And it's like that's not, and so that you can always you always need to be cautious because the thing is people can frame things in ways to try and make you think things that aren't true. And that they can always come up with these. That's why I go, Greg Garcia is an easy one where someone goes like, he's a Maryland man who was wrongfully deported. And like,
Yeah.
that's why people thought he was that's why you get well, he was a citizen. No, he wasn't. Why'd you think that? Because you called him a Maryland man. By Maryland man, we just mean he was physically within there. Right. Or it goes, well, he was wrongfully. You know, he was legally here. No, didn't say that. Well, I just said he was wrongfully. I didn't say why he was wrongfully. But the point is to leave it empty and let people's minds fill in the blanks. You have an out because I didn't really say anything. All I said was Maryland man deported wrongly. I didn't tell you anything beyond that. I can let you fill in the blanks that if he's a citizen, I didn't say that, but I can let you believe it. He had an asylum claim. I didn't say it, but you can believe it. And the thing is, there's going to be people who believe it and then say that someone else will hear that and say, we're deporting our own citizens for no reason and just black bagging them. You're like, well, that wasn't said, but that's what the person took from it. That's what the person put on Facebook. And that's what everyone then thought that. And I've had that conversation with lawyers. I had one point where I'd explained to them that he goes, he had no due process at all. I'm like, there was a deportation order. He goes, well, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I'm like, what do you think a court order is? Yeah. That's the end of a process. That's not the beginning. The court orders something. And if you're not, like, you're in defiance of the order. If you're not, anyone who has a deportation order and is still in the country is in open defiance of the court. That's why when people say like, there's like they need due process, I'm like, the due process is over. You have anyone with a deportation order, there doesn't need to be any additional process. You have it when you got the order.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, well, I had a whole debate with North. It went like 5 hours, and a big chunk of it was spent on Abrego Garcia. And we didn't even really get a chance to get into like the legal procedural side of it.
Where did it get stuck?
Because it got stuck on whether or not he was MS-13. And like he really pushed you think this is a real thing? And it was the Trump holding up the picture that like had the letters that said MS-13 on his knuckles.
What was your response?
I was like, well, first off, so I do have some experience in this stuff actually, because first off, I actually lived in El Salvador for a year back before what is his name, Bukele came in and cleaned everything up. So it was still, I think it was the number 3 highest murder rate in the world when we were there. We were doing the mission work down there. But so I've lived in El Salvador, and as a prosecutor, I've dealt with gangs. So it's like I kind of have some background on it. And yes, MS-13, they've got really distinctive tattoos because they like to show it off. But also, too, they have gangs can do symbols instead of just the outright. So that way they have the plausible deniability. And yeah, when you look at the knuckles and it's a marijuana leaf, a skull, and then I forget the other two, but it's like, yeah, the acronyms would be MS-13. But that aside, I wasn't even going to focus on that because I could see how dug in he was on like, well, it's just, look, it's a fake picture. It's doctored to say MS-13. I focused on the police report from the gang investigative unit, because these are people who, like, the gang investigators. They know
Yeah.
their stuff, and like they have so much on the ground information about how local gangs operate. And it was the gang investigators unit that had initially arrested him because he was standing in like a parking lot of like a Walmart,
With
standing
other
around.
members, and they
Well,
all
yeah, with
gave his
known
address,
MS-13 members, just like
and they
shooting
all of them
shit.
gave his home address. You know, there's like a bunch of like I know details of it. My response thing is that there's I would never go down that. Like I've had that exact thing, but I stop it by just going like, I'm not going to assess what is and is not. And the fact that you think I'm going to declare my expertise on this area and tell you whether the court is right or wrong. I'm like, the next thing I follow up is goes, okay, do you think that he shouldn't have been deported to El Salvador? Why not? He goes, well, he feared for his life. Do you let me show? Have you addressed all that evidence? What is the proper? I go, I don't know. All my guess is what happens usually is just testimony. He just goes, can you sell it to a judge? These are just judicial findings. Like, well, he hasn't been charged with anything. You don't have to be. What are you talking? You're not charged with being MS-13. That's not a crime on the book. You don't. It's just a judicial find that goes, do we believe you're MS-13? If the court finds that you are, then I'm already done. Because the idea that you want me to review it and then tell you whether it's right or wrong, as if I have any expertise in this area. I don't. And so for me to do that would be stupid. And so if someone wants to, I would never argue. Like I would just say like, if the court, just as I accept that the court found that his fear of going back to his home country is founded, I just accept that. I'm not going to tell you that, like, because we could argue and say, well, I don't think his testimony was convincing, so he shouldn't have it, so I don't care that he was deported wrongfully. And if you go, well, no, the court found it, so they have to honor it. Okay, the court, if they found that he was MS-13, then I have to accept that as well. I have either I accept them both or I have to reject them both. Because if I have to say the court's order or the court's findings, I can reject them, then I can reject all of them. Like, that's not how this works. The rule is, whether he is or isn't even relevant to me. The thing is, he was found to be by the court. Done. If you don't like it, then you would address that procedurally. He was found also not to whatever his fear for his thing. Even if I think that's wrong, it doesn't matter because the court just it's not up. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters. The court said it's true. If I don't like it, then I would have to go. I could go to the courts and go to like the prosecutor and say, hey, I want to help you guys make it so he loses his non-withdrawal status. And here's my amicus brief to try. I could write an amicus brief. I could just try and in support or against it. If I wanted to try and if I thought I had some grand argument as to which one way or the other. But that's the way I don't just, he goes, what I'm not going to do is have someone show me a document and say, look at this picture. Look at Trump holding it up and look how stupid he is pointing at this Photoshop picture. So he isn't MS-13. I go, none of that's relevant to anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I should have focused more. And admittedly at the time too, I wasn't read up enough to, I feel like, speak authoritatively on it, which I know crazy. That was wielded against me in my Destiny debate because he was bringing up some stuff that I was aware of it, but I just like, okay, you're going to rattle off 5 executive orders and start pop quizzing me about them. It's like, I haven't read all of them. I'm sorry. I got a full-time job. I can't just sit on my computer and research this stuff all day.
Yeah.
But it's like, then that becomes the club to wield against you when it's like, I'm actually willing to have the intellectual honesty to be like, I don't have enough information or research to speak authoritatively. But that point aside, I didn't speak too much on the legal procedural stuff because I just hadn't read enough. But I was familiar with some of the background on the facts. But here's the thing about it, because like North was really committed to this idea that like, he had fled because he feared for his life. And it's like, that very well may be true.
What evidence? Because I already said the same thing. Show me, because you did your old little MS-13 thing. Show me the exact same little slideshow of all the evidence he provided to show this fear for his life thing.
Which I'm not even like.
It was just testimony, is my understanding. It's all he has. Because what else are you going to have? You show up in the country, you've been here for 6 years. What, you have an affidavit saying, yes, I've threatened him? You're not going to have anything. You're just going to have your own testimony. But if you're convincing to a judge, that's all you need.
Yeah, but the funniest part about that though is if he's here, because the typical assumption would be, okay, if you're afraid of gang violence in El Salvador, and that's why you have to be here, it would be, the presumption would be, well, it's because it's MS-13, which, true, they are a vicious, violent gang. So that'd be the assumption. But if he's here associating with MS-13, then that would mean it's probably because he did something for MS-13 that got him on the hit list of another gang.
I think the claim was his family business was being like shaken down for protection money. They wouldn't pay it, so he fled for fear of it. And the thing is, you're like, again, I doubt he had like letters that signed by gang. Hello, I am gang member. I am threatening you. Yeah. Again, he's going to tell his story to a judge. Because the other part is, remember, when you get caught 6 years in and you didn't present yourself, and you're like, oh, now I have my story. That also gives you skeptic. He goes, you're saying that now because it's like someone claiming asylum once you catch them. You're like, sure you did. And that But I would never, because when you go down to that stuff, you're fighting on things where it's like, remember, even if your area, unless you truly are an expert in the area, I'd never go down to that because I never fight with you're wrong when it doesn't matter suffices. It doesn't matter whether I personally think he's MS-13 or not, because that's not, the court doesn't do it based on my fees. It doesn't matter whether he truly feared for his life. The other thing is that the fact that the whole you can't do that if going to the police is an option. So a country has to basically be in like broken, the gangs have to have control of it for you to be able to use that whole, like, I'm scared. Because otherwise anyone who gets threatened anywhere could just have a free pass to any country. It has to, because if I get threatened by a gang member, the answer is I don't get to flee to another country. I'll never get asylum. They'll say go to the cops. Call 911. Right. So their leader is that CCOT is a gang prison. The guys, so which means apparently the police are now cracking down on gangs, which means now going to the police is your answer, which means the withdrawal order probably could be withdrawn now. So which means he probably could still be back in CCOT. But but again, even then, I'd say even if I think that, it doesn't change the fact the court order stands. It doesn't matter what I personally feel. And that's the part that actually I really run into walls with people is like, and also I said that's why I wouldn't ever go down that wall, is to say it does not matter how we personally feel. The court does not rule on your personal feelings, and the court's rules the orders don't change based on your personal feelings.
And I think that's a good point to bring in this comment, which, by the way, Anexius, I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hope you're getting some good value out of our conversation. But question being, here's a wider problem. Estimated 9 million illegals cross the border under Biden. It is not possible to give all 9 million illegals the amount of due process that leftists want. I think that actually, there's a second one. It would require tens of millions of man hours of work, untold fortunes, which the courts cannot handle. Leftists play a dangerous game. I think this actually, I hate to do this because you're new here, Nexius, and we want you to stick around. But I think based on what Zetsui just said, we got to respectfully push back, because when we are talking about constitutional violations, due process violations, it's something that has to be treated seriously and can't be hand waved away just because the sheer volume. Because I mean, you could.
Everyone is entitled to due process. However, sorry, actually, no, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point. I'll let you go from there.
But so everyone is entitled to due process. However, they don't want due process. They want them all to stay, which means that there will never be a due process to them is whatever, I will give them infinite appeals until I get what I want. And it always has to be like, so it's like there's a deportation order against them. Well, they need 90 days notice and an additional appeal. No, they don't. Remember, due process can be a 5-second hearing. Mm-hmm. Like, so the form of saying like, you show up, we catch you, we go, are you here? And also remember, the due process purpose is to find out if you're in the country legally or illegally. Yeah. If you admit you're in the country illegally, we're done. It's not, you don't get due process to argue why you want to personally stay. That's not a due process issue.
Right.
Due process, yes, exactly what he just said. It's context dependent. People seem to think it's like the whole criminal thing. It's nothing. It literally means you can be picked up. We have a brief thing with you. Are you here legally? I'm here illegally. We're deporting you.
It's the thing. It's two elements. Due process is two elements for anyone who doesn't know. It's notice and opportunity to be heard. So that's all that's required constitutionally to fulfill a due process requirement. You have to have notice of what you're charged with, and then you have to have an opportunity to respond. Which, yes, if the only issue of fact is whether you're here legally or illegally, that's a 5-minute hearing. That you have notice of what it is that you're being accused of, and you have your opportunity to defend yourself. Which it's a very short defense because it's a yes or no question.
If they admit, especially if they're going like illegal immigrants deserve due process, I'm like, yes, and they should all lose them, correct? Like there should be no success story here because it's like saying murderers deserve due process. Yes, and they should all be found guilty. If you admit you murdered the person, the due process should end with you losing if you admit it. So the illegal immigrants, because people seem to think that due process means they get like a decision, like to get hearings and things to try and argue their case as to why they should be allowed to stay. That is not due process. The due process is to say, are you here legally? If no, we can deport you. And the thing, that's why the asylum, they'll go like, well, I claim asylum. Asylum claims are also separate. Mm-hmm. We can, you're here illegally, we will deport you. And you go, well, I want to claim asylum. Great, we'll call you. Tell us your address as we do, but it doesn't mean you get to stay in the country while we do it. And that's also, people seem to think that means we don't have to release you in the country. That's why the whole CCOT thing, no one's arguing they can't be detained. If all of them were sitting in a federal prison, they'd have no argument. Because if you enter the country illegally, they go, well, there's no crime. We can, do you want to go back to your home country? No. Okay, then you'll sit in detainment until we decide what to do with you, but you're not entering our country. there's no punishment here. We'll let you out immediately as soon as you're willing to go back to your home country. But until then, we have to find some place for you. But you're telling us you don't want to go home and you can't stay here. And so the thing is that people don't want due process. They want the people to stay, and arguing due process with them is fruitless because it'll never be enough.
Yeah. Basically, in simple terms, America is a bar and it's the end of the night. We're closing down. So you can't stay here. Sorry, I'm butchering it. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so we prefer if you went home, though.
So responsibility is trying to tell people to say that I don't know what the correct number of immigration is. I don't know. This isn't, and the idea goes, you think I'm supposed to know that number? I don't know it. Do we need more? I don't know. And that if you're relying upon me, we're doomed, man. If you're just like going, hey, there's a guy sitting there playing Elden Ring, I bet he knows the exact numbers of people we need in this country. I'm like, don't we have special interest groups and lobbies that can say, hey, I work for these hotel chains. We are lacking these workers. I would like you to like, please give us 40,000 people. Like, we'd like you to allow in 40,000 people. We have this many jobs openings. And that you could, therefore, they would contact, like, that. That's not how we have lobbyists, things like that. Immigration policy could be passed to make all these people, like, if you want to give them all amnesty, pass a law. But you can't tell me that they all have deportation orders and that you want, because discretionary, under Democrats, they will use their discretion to not deport people. Because you just say, that's why he goes the whole, like, oh, he was doing hearings. Because you'd say, yes, you're here illegally. We can't send you back to our home country. We don't feel like detaining you, so we will just let you sit here. We'll deal with you later. But that means he's in limbo. All it takes is now anyone who wants to use their discretion to deport you, and they're fine to do so. That you're not entitled to democratic discretion. You're entitled, and if you're relying upon that, you're insane. Or that you think that Trump is required to follow your discretionary desires. He's not. And that you're dooming yourself to failure if you rely upon the benevolent discretion. Because the law gives that. Even for things like asylum, you could meet every asylum criteria and we can still say no. It is discretionary. The laws for asylum are restrictions, says you can only grant it under these circumstances. It does not require you to grant it to anyone. And so if our discretion is, I don't care what criteria you're meeting, no. They're allowed to do that. If you don't like it, it would be a law change. If you don't like the current immigration policy, you have to change immigration policy. And I know it's not fun. I know it's annoying. It's not easy to pass those laws. It's not even easy to understand our laws or how you might want to fix them. None of it's fun. None of it's easy. And I'm sorry for that. But the problem is that you're going to be like the world. I just feel bad for people who are so doom-pilled and so so upset over how the world works, because they don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You've still got my favorite quote of the last however long. Of these people think everything is unprecedented just because they don't know the precedent.
Yeah, and everything's unprecedented to those who don't know precedent. Yeah,
it's. I just see that applying to so many things, and I just never. It's like I'm Neo now, and I can see the Matrix now, and I've got it figured out. But actually, and just on a point you're saying about the laws just being so numerous and so complicated, I've actually been reading a book from Justice Gorsuch, which is just all about, it's called Overruled, and it's just all about the bureaucracy and the administrative branch and how it's just so bloated and so vastly expanded beyond anything anyone ever conceived. It's just a monster now. But he opens the book by saying, there have been scholars that have attempted to put an official number on how many federal laws there are, if you include regulations. Yeah. And multiple scholars have attempted this task, and all of them have failed. No one has ever been able to come up with a complete definitive number of laws, because that's how insane it is. That's how complicated it is. So,
yeah. With the other thing is that people seem to not know that we're even called like the United States of America, that we're 50 sovereign states that come together for the federal government, that they don't realize that a lot of your COVID restrictions, that was your governor, that wasn't the president. A lot of the things in your life are coming from the governor, not the president. And the thing is that they get to walk on it and blame the president like he's the king of the country. He's not. And that when people expect that and people hope for that, and then that means they get really angry when things don't go their way. They're like, why didn't I see change when I elected president? Because the president doesn't change that much for you.
Yeah,
they're not going to affect you that much. And if you're expecting them to, they're unbelievably limited. Even when a president makes promises, remember, they can't pass laws. They can say, I want, like Obama saying, I want you to shut down Guantanamo. That's all he can do. When he promised to shut it down, what that promise is like, I'm going to wag my finger at Congress and say, please shut down Guantanamo. But he can't do it unilaterally. And the thing is, but there are discretionary things that you can do. There is I try to tell this, like when it comes to like the push and pull of executive control over budget, like either budget or other things, there is a push and pull. There's a lot of discretionary power that the president has in these areas. The thing is, as soon as someone, like everyone's happy when the discretion goes in their favor, but the second it isn't, suddenly they seem to decide the world's ending. The deferral of funds, like I've heard people say, it's like, well, no, he's acting with the power of the purse. No, he's not. He goes, did you read the budget? It doesn't assign. If I have Bob's help the home, if I go, Congress allocates to me $10 billion to help the homeless, then there's a contract that gets administered that goes that Bob's help the homeless, like we'll give rubber duckies to the homeless and he wants $1 million and it's granted to him. Congress hasn't given it to him. An executive agency has granted it. All Congress has said is, here's $10 billion, help the homeless. Whether if someone wants to come in and say, I don't think rubber duckies help the homeless, I'm canceling that contract, he can do that without congressional approval. Mm-hmm. He does have to reallocate the fund. There are methods to there are usually like a 10% like limit on things, but he's given a general concept. And that's why, because if I was Congress and you're the president and I gave you $10 billion to help the homeless, you go, well, what do you specifically want me to do? You go, the hell you asking me for? I'm not the executive. You are. I gave you a task. I gave you a direction. Go figure. I gave you people. I gave you a director. Go find out what helps. Go see what works. It's you. What are you here for? I'm not here to do your job. Go execute. Like, and that's what and the thing is, what Trump is doing is like when he does first funds and he says, I'm canceling contracts that I consider woke. He's allowed, like, even if you, like I read for a debate once that unfortunately I overread because I didn't realize no one else would read. I read the terms and conditions of grants. One of the reasons they can terminate a contract in part or in whole is due to a realignment of agency priorities. They're allowed to just say like, the agency's going a different direction. We're canceling your contract. That's allowed. That was one of the reasons, like even like the court, like when they're trying to say like, can we still like freeze or unfreeze funds? And they're trying to say you can't freeze because of this memo, but you can freeze for other regions. They were looking through the contracts going, oh, we can do it for realigning of agency. So that one stays frozen. We're realigning we're not doing the memo. Fine, it's out, but we're allowed to and then they're coming back and saying, no, you can't freeze those. Because how do you know why I canceled your contract? Did I do it because it's within the contract, or did I do it because of a memo you stopped?
Yeah.
The Impoundment Act debate, that was it was on WIC. It was me, Lactoid, I think it was Soy Pill and Pisco.
But yeah, but the argument you're making about, funds get allocated, but the president has authority to
he has discretion. He has a lot of discretion in these things.
To choose how to spend it. Yeah.
And the agencies.
I need to watch.
People say the unitary executive theory. Like, actually, what are your thoughts? Can I ask you that? What are your thoughts on unitary executive theory? Or like, what do you think it is, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I think it is the belief that obviously when you read Article 2 of the Constitution, it says all the executive power of the United States shall vest in one executive. And so basically that the president is the source of all executive power, and anything through the rest of the executive branch all springs from the power vested in the president that he's now delegated to basically his underlings to effectuate his duty as being the chief executive. So I see appeal to it certainly as just as a constitutional interpretation, because the Constitution is pretty clear. That's like all power shall vest in one executive. So
it doesn't say unless we got some other agents that want it. Like, no, it's all in him.
So, and just because my con law professor in law school, he described the agencies as chimeras. So like these like mutant combinations of some executive power, some legislative power, some judicial power. And so, yeah, just because you're trying to put some of that executive power into these agencies, and now you're trying to say, well, now they're shielded because they're not just, they're quasi-executive now. That's just, I think that's a bunch of baloney. I mean, I can't think of any right now, but I know I've heard criticisms of unitary executive that have made sense to me. But when I just think about core basic principles, I think just the way the Constitution is written, that, it does support. So maybe it's that one of those things. It's like, I may not like how it may play out at different times, but it doesn't change. This is just what the Constitution requires. And if you want to change it, there's an amendment process. Because
the thing is that I understand, because the country's complex and big enough that the thing is that we can't have them do every single thing. But like there is a standard. Actually, I actually found my old notes from law school the other day, because it goes the purpose because they can't delegate their duties at all to anyone, but they can go if you goes important choices of social policy are made by Congress, and that therefore you have to delegate. You have to go an intelligible principle to guide the exercise of that delegated discretion,
Right.
and to enable the review of the courts to test the exercise, ascertain those standards. So that you have so like you can delegate and say, look, I need you to tell me how much like what the correct percentage is toxic. I can't. Congress can't. We can't do it ourselves. So look, we need you to stop to prevent them from producing these goods that are toxic to people, and so long like it has to like not so to make it so it doesn't kill people. So the courts can because the courts need to be able to need to be able to judge it to say, are you beyond your discretion or are you not? So I need an intelligible purpose that the court can review, and that's why they're able to basically they're delegating their discretionary options, but they can't delegate like policy. So they can't say like, yeah, you figure out what's good for the country. That can't be it. And so some of these agencies, even then, like your limits they can't put infinite limits on them because I think I'm trying to remember like what they are because it's like if they're purely executive, then yeah, he can remove anyone without and he doesn't need it. Why? Because again, he is the unitary executive theory. I agree in the sense that yeah, it's the president, and people are like, well, if his directors aren't aligned with him, how can he fire them? Who else is there? Someone has to win. If he and his director disagree on something, either he has to concede to the director has to quit, or he can fire him. Like that but the winner is the president. The director can't overrule him. That was even like during like the whole like attorney general where he's like, well, Barr says that like there's no evidence. And I go, I agree, like for the whole election fraud.
Yeah.
I even agree with Barr. But the answer is he doesn't overrule the president.
Right.
Because if I say pursue this case and my attorney general goes, I don't think there's enough evidence. I don't think there's any evidence. I think you're crazy. And I say no to you. Well, you can either I can concede to you, which was what Trump did. I can fire you, or you can resign. But the winner, it can't be that like in a dispute of ideas, the underling defeats the superior. Like that can't be it.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you think then about. I know there's, gosh, we're getting so niche, so in the weeds, but I love it.
Yeah.
Special counsel and the whole idea of can there even be such a thing as a special counsel?
No.
You think
I actually have my notes. I was actually reading it the other day. I was in my notes actually about saying like, because I get what they're trying to do. The problem is I'm going, they have more power than the actual like heads of office. Are you insane? Because they're unreviewable, like executive. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if you want to do this, you have to like, I'm trying to think of like, but I do get what you're trying to do to say that like we can't have them having control over them to do their own thing. But it also says like, well, okay, I'm trying to think of how you would actually go about doing this. I think there has to be like you're right.
I think the checks and separation of powers, checks and balances, that I think would win the day. I mean, yeah, like I'm with you. I understand. So just for our lovely chat following along, basically what we're talking about right now is whether or not there can even exist such a thing like a special counsel, because it exists within the executive branch, but the president is not authorized, has no authority to remove or oversee the special counsel. That's why they're independent. The whole idea being,
Morrison.
Well, what if the president acts out of order? We need an independent investigator to be able to investigate and prosecute that. But all prosecutors are members of the executive branch. That is just the branch they belong to. So it's this question of like, okay, if the president's the unitary executive and they have authority over all the executive branch, how can there exist someone in the branch that exists outside and even above the president, because they're unchallengeable, unreviewable. And yeah, it seems to be that that's not constitutional, and there's open debate over whether or not it is. I think that's why the documents case, the judge dismissed that initially, where she said it violated the appointments clause. But without going too deep into that, I think the solution, let's say there's a Supreme Court ruling says special counsel is unconstitutional, cannot exist. I don't think it would be as scary as it might feel like it could be, because we're still in a world where you've got the Congress and the impeachment power that can forcefully remove the president from office. I think I have enough faith just in the system itself and the people, and the military, that if a president has been impeached and convicted and the president orders the military to barricade him inside the White House, I just have serious doubts that they would follow that.
I just read my notes on dissenting opinion from Justice Scalia on Morrison. Actually, and I agree. Like his odds, I often do. I think Scalia is brilliant. But he goes that you could do it. It would just have to be with the advice so that if the president, say you want to investigate the president, you'd go, you have to have someone that the president will say someone he thinks is a fair person for him, and Congress has to approve him. But now let's imagine horror scenarios. Let's say the president refuses to appoint, goes, I don't want to be investigated, so I'm not going to give you guys any names. So impeach him for that. To say you have failed in your duties as president, we're removing you from office now. Or let's say if he continually only offers up his buddy, like again, same thing. It goes, if he tries to play games with you, if he tries to avoid it, but there's a fairness in that, saying, look, you want to have a special counsel, fine. I'll appoint, he goes, I will choose someone I think is fair, that both the president and Congress agree will be a fair arbiter. So the person is now independent, but he's been chosen by one side, approved by the other side. And so that no one can really call bullshit and go like, that was BS. It goes, no, you chose the guy. We asked, it goes, you got to choose the person who'd be investigating you. And we just said, yes, the one you chose. You have to give us someone that we think will be fair to you. Otherwise, we're not going to say no. And if you try and screw with us, we'll remove you from office. So don't play that game. That's the way they should. I agree with Scalia's dissent. That would be the way to do it.
Yeah. Damn. I'm just thinking like, because that just makes so much sense as like a real, rational, reasonable solution to a very sticky question and potential fertile ground for a legitimate constitutional crisis, but it's solved for by the system that the founders created and separation of powers and checks and balances. It's like I'm so glad. Like that's really my main motivation for even like wanting to get involved with and start this kind of reasonable right project, founding principles restoration. Is like they just built, like I can't even imagine being tasked with this idea that we're starting a country. How do we build it? How do we formulate it? Like, where do you even begin with that? Obviously, we have starting points, but like, how do you now distill our Scottish common law realism and our biblical principles? How do we distill that into an actual functional government? And my gosh, it's like they just did it. They did it, and it just works. It's such a good system that it's not
incredible
not perfect.
Answers.
Yeah, nothing's perfect, but like it seems that every potential constitutional crisis, there's a way out of it just through checks and balances and separation of powers.
There is. That's why even the criminal immunity, where people are like, oh my God, he can do it. He goes, no, he can't.
Right.
Because there's nothing. Because like even like where people like the three buckets are insane. I'm like, have any of you read Fitzgerald? That like they straight up like they describe all three. Like they didn't name them buckets. I guess that they named those three of those actions. That's why he goes, where did civil immunity come from? That didn't come from nowhere. And the thing is that, and they even point out there, the dissent is like, my God, madness shall ensue. The president shall destroy us all with the civil immunity. And the answer is, he's not free from consequences. If the president goes, and I think I've even posed it before, I said, if you think the president just like ordered like SEAL Team 6 to publicly alive skin children as they beg for their parents, you think that they're just gonna go, oh, sorry, criminal immunity because he said military power before he did it. Right. I'm like, no one will believe you. And like, would you write that memo saying, like, would you remember, you're going to sign your name to that? Would you remember, you're going to be disbarred and going to prison with him? That's my prediction. Would you, but you're telling me you believe it. So will you sign it? And the answer is no, I think they'd make some out. I'm like, you already, because you think is, that's not the ruling. If you know that won't be the outcome, that's not what it is. The situation is going to be, you have to convince a judge that you were acting within your, like your official duties, because a judge will have to be the one to determine, and ultimately the Supreme Court, whether you were acting with or without them, because he doesn't have protections.
Right.
With it, things.
Because that would fall under the well, I guess
they
would try
for the outs.
They would try and say it's core, but it's really would fall under that presumptive immunity.
Because the thing is that, and it makes sense, because you'd say like pardoning is a power, but if I made it illegal for you to sign pieces of paper that make it so people escape any form of punishment for crime, like, okay, well, I have to. Like, well, it doesn't say you can do those things. That's not a core power. You're like, how am I supposed to do it if I can't? You can't try and remove my core power by like skirting the edge. Goes, I can stop you. Don't do it on Wednesdays. You can't do it for the next 6 months, or you can't do it with blue or black ink or any ink of any color that currently exists. You have to invent a new color before you're allowed to sign the piece of paper. Like you can't. All of those are methods of trying to control the president's actions that you can't do. And that's oftentimes like, so when you look at it to say like, with the whole like investigation thing, when people go, it was fraud. Fraud just means an investigation you don't like. That you go, and you think it's clear that it's stupid, but it doesn't matter that you don't like it. And people go, bribery. You're trying to come up with a rule. The president decides what to investigate. You can't tell him what he can. And if your decision says like, can I get him for fraud if he doesn't investigate? You go, well, no, because obviously there's no evidence. It goes, so then you're the one so then you're the real president, because you're saying that you decide what he can and can't investigate. If he's investigating things that are stupid, remove him from office. Mm-hmm. And I really, again, the problem is that's not a fun answer, because he goes, well, I can't convince the Republicans to impeach him. then you're supposed to lose. If you can't convince people, you're supposed to lose. This idea of trying to fight I don't like the outcome, so therefore I need to find a way around it. You're not supposed to. And that's the thing that's sometimes scary to me, is that people seem to see like the Constitution as an obstacle. Like, how do I get around it? If someone goes, I don't like the Second Amendment, so maybe I know it doesn't allow bullets, make bullets cost infinity. Or it's illegal. You're allowed to bear them, but you can't actually fire. Like, you're trying to go, I want it to go away, but I want to so how can I invalidate it? As soon as you're trying to invalidate it, you've already lost. The second you try and say, how can I ban guns without banning guns? I don't even care what you come up at that point. You already lost. The second you're trying to do that, you're not supposed to do that. And as soon as I know that's what you're doing, you're basically out. And so like, and that no one sees the horrors that will come if they do the same. That they don't see it coming back their way, or that when it does, they'll have some crazy idea as to why, like, well, it'll be ridiculous when I do it to me. I'm like, you can't rely upon your fifis. I feel that mine weren't fraudulent, so it's okay. Well, a jury's going to think otherwise. And it's like, you're sure about that? Like, can you name, people use South Korea as an example. South Korea's, some of their leaders have committed suicide and have written notes saying that, like, being the leader is a death sentence because each one of them gets accused of abuse and then imprisoned or because how do you not? What president has not been accused of abuse ever? Name one that's been like, nope, this guy was up and up. Everyone likes him. People called Obama a murderer. If they could get him, goes like, well, nope, murder is wrong, and he killed children with drones, therefore it's a murder. That's not is killing children randomly a military power? No. Well, I guess I can get him for it now, and we'll let the jury decide. And you're like, Are you insane? Part of the whole peaceful transfer of power means that people have to be safe to give up power. If you make it a death sentence to give up power, they can't. There's two ends to that. The answer is, you have to commit to the peaceful transfer. They have to give it up, and that's part of it. The other part is the reason why I especially am in favor of the immunity ruling is they need to be safe to give it up, that just go away. And honestly, I think even like Garland and everyone supported that. That's why they waited until if he had just not run again, I don't think any of them would have gone after him criminally. The hope was that he would just go away.
I 100% agree with that. I think New York still would have done their stupid hush money thing.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
But yeah, the feds, I 100% agree that I think they would have been willing to just not proceed. Just kind of like let the election speak for itself of like, you went down this crazy rabbit hole and you got killed for it electorally. And that's your punishment, is you don't get to be president anymore. And now you have to go, like, you went out on like the worst possible note too. And that's what people are going to remember you for. But then he announced he's running again. And it was like just a couple months later that the indictment started coming down, and it just rocketed back to the top.
That does give me a thing is that, like, I get why. The thing is, it does give me some hope. The fact that they didn't do it for 2 years, the fact that I think that they saw the same, like Garland, I think saw the same thing. That goes, I don't think they wanted to do it. I think that the only reason that they believe that it goes, if you go away, it's over, walk away, be done with it. That's the better way, just to move on. That we moved on from the Civil War. We moved on from the Whiskey Rebellion. People were found guilty, and then he pardoned them both. It was enough. We don't need to do this. We moved on from the amount of shit we've moved on from, that we just let shit go. And it's not for that person. Fuck the person. I care about the country. And the thing is, we need to let shit go for the health of us, for the soul. I mean, I hate that soul. But for us, it goes, if we don't do it, it won't be. It goes, once it's gone, it's gone. If the president thinks he will be killed if he leaves office, he will not leave office. He will do like there was in South Korea, part of like the military coup was, if I was in South Korea and I think that as soon as I leave office, they're going to try and like throw me in prison for the rest of my life, why not try and call him? Like, goes, why? Because I'm dead if I don't. Because you're telling me you're like that. If that's if the president is, you can destroy me as soon as I leave office. But the president is, you can't touch me. I don't care what. It goes, haha, I did stupid things, and the best you can do is impeach me. You can't get fucked. Well, then there's no reason for me not to leave office because I'm sick. Because even if I just walk away, and there's a benefit. I realize there's a cost. You say, well, what if they do something horrible? I'm like, do you think there's something that Scalia said, the wackier the hypothetical, the less likely it is to happen. And it's just not like, we don't need to consider the wackiest hypothetical to go, what if the world explodes? And you're like, do we react based on, is the world going to explode? Do you think that's coming? No, but you want us to act on the world exploding. You want our reaction to be a world explosion reaction, even when we all know it's not going to happen. That there is no SEAL Team 6 is not going to get used. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Like You want to argue that, like, oh, it's possible. Anything's possible. If tomorrow every single person in our country decided the Constitution actually says we're a monarchy, we're a monarchy. There's no one to dispute it. We could technically do that and just go, you know what? We interpret it to mean that. The Supreme Court has the ability to interpret the Constitution. They could just decide tomorrow that actually the First Amendment means the Supreme Court are all God kings. We hereby dissolve the legislature and the presidency because they're unconstitutional for them to exist. All shall worship us. And hey, we're the interpreters of the Constitution. They're technically the interpreters, but it doesn't work. It wouldn't happen. That's part of why Marbury v. Madison, when they did that, was goes, we can't tell. What are we going to do? We don't have our decisions can't be unhinged, because if we declare ourselves God kings, it won't work. Even though everyone concedes we're the interpreters, if we interpret that we're God kings from the First Amendment, no one will follow it.
I think the foundational premise that the founders laid out when they built the system the way they did was that even if there are individual actors that will come into the scene and they will just be destructive, toxic figures that are not healthy for the democracy, there will always be enough reasonable people involved and in the room to where they will never be able to truly threaten, like in a way, like we're saying, like with some of these crazy hypotheticals, like the Supreme Court will never get to a point where they're declaring themselves God kings, because the checks and balances of you have to have a president who will nominate them and then a Senate that will confirm them. And that completely.
And when insane enough to actually believe it'll do something, not know, because the thing is, you're gonna, like, it won't work. So that if you hold out the decision, no one will follow it. All you've done is destroy yourself. They have to be suicidal, basically.
And that's why I guess I can never get too worked up about Trump's excesses, because there's just enough reasonable people in the government. Like, okay, perfect example. This whole Trump is now pretty, like, repeatedly now saying, nuke the filibuster, let's reopen the government. He said it a few times now. And consistently, the Republicans in the Senate have all said, no, we're good. So, and for all this talk of, like, and truly, I think this is one of my major criticisms of the right, is there is cult-like aspects of how people support Trump.
Yes,
how
absolutely.
It is whatever the leader says, he can switch his position 180 on a dime, and the followers will follow it. Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of his followers and supporters, I'd like to lump myself in this category, that stays consistent and will, well, like as Ben Shapiro says, it's the good Trump, bad Trump. It's like, be willing to try and call balls and strikes as best you can and be consistent with your principles. But certainly, I'd be blind to not acknowledge that there is a segment of the right that views Trump in the same way people in a cult view their cult leader.
I agree.
And so even with that, in the left likes to make it sound like the entire MAGA movement is the cult, and MAGA has taken over the Republican Party, so therefore the entire Republican Party is the cult. I mean, it's the whole Joe Biden Independence Hall speech. It's the MAGA Republicans, but MAGA Republicans are anyone who voted for Trump. So
it's
half the country
I just
are
wish
traitors.
They're giving up. And the problem is that's the part that goes, like, if you're at that point, if you're at that door, he goes, then why aren't you calling for the, like, because usually I actually push back and say, like, it sounds like you're saying you should destroy the world, like you're ready to end the whole American experiment. Are you there? No. Then why'd you if you're deciding that, like, it's so deep? That's actually one thing with the whole 2020 election thing. I've had, like, when I first happened, like, my vision was like, well, those aren't my states. It's not like, that's not really my business, how they handle electoral college. Even if I think, I'm not from Georgia, if I think their thing was done fraudulently, who cares? It's none of my bit. It goes, that position should be, I should go screw myself because I'm not from Georgia. And therefore, if they don't think it's fraudulent, my opinion doesn't matter. And I'm like, that's kind of, and it actually kind of annoyed me when people try to act like you have some, like, you have no right to any other state's business. They delegate their electoral college votes however they want. If they think it's fair, I don't, like, then it's good enough for me. And I don't care what any other state seats. And I defended their right to hold, whether I think it's fraudulent or not. But when it comes down to, when someone thinks like, oh, the core, if you think that everything's fallen, like, you really, like, there's sometimes where people make a position that you go, do you understand what you're saying? If you think, so in Georgia, they investigate, the executive branch did investigate it. The legislature does have the power to do something. They chose to do nothing. The judiciary, like, goes, all three branches of the government didn't do, like, thought it was okay. If you think they're all corrupt, and the Supreme Court was also apparently corrupt because they wouldn't do it either, the corruption, are you really, you think it's apocalypse now? The corruption's, then at which point, even if you convince me of all those things, all I'm going to do is nothing because I give up. I'm going to go to Taco Bell every day for as long as it exists because it's not going to, apparently you're telling me the end of the world is now, the cancer has taken us, it's too deep. I can't, if all three branches of government have fallen to corruption, all I have left is my life is measured by how long Taco Bell can stay open. And that's all. And like, all you'll do is doom pill me and make, like, so there's times where someone's like, their position is so like horrific that goes, even if you win, all you'll convince me of doing is giving up. Like that's all, because I'm not going to say like, oh, you're right. All three branches of every government and everything has fallen to corruption. Go grab your gun. Let's get started now. As nothing in my mind, I'm going, wait, nothing's. I'm fine right now. That like, why? Just because you told me, even if you can, like I said, if you convince me, I'm going. Then I guess the overlords of like the Illuminati is in control, and I guess I just give up because I'm like, my life. I'm not going to give up my house, my food. I'm not going to go back to living in a cave. Even if the Illuminati are, if that's my options are, an Illuminati is in power, but I can live my life as though they didn't, then I'm going to choose that over saying, get your gun and go die in the streets to a cop while I scream, the Illuminati is taking us all. I'm like, why would I ever choose that?
It's like, yeah. And that's why, I mean, I'm just, gosh, and credit to Destiny again. I picked this one up from him. But anytime someone's out there saying, yeah, Trump's going to run for a third term, and it's like, it's just totally, it's a fact. Even Destiny, he said it during my debate with him. And everyone I've come across that has said that, I've just said on the spot, all right, let's bet on it. Let's put some money on it.
Put 10 G's, man. I'll do it. Like, hey, if you think he's actually well, actually, here's the thing. I'll fly. There is, if like everyone decided, the thing is, we could technically pass a law. Like we limited to 2 terms of our own distillation. If Congress decided they wanted to do 3 terms, that's not like a massive violation. Because I wouldn't like it. I'm not in favor of it. But you go, if you just sit from an abstract concept of saying 3 terms gets you 12 years, that at least gets you a decade to try. It goes that, so suddenly goes, maybe rather than doing 8-year policy, you have 12-year, you can do a longer term thing and kind of show what you're doing. So, I mean, as a concept, I wouldn't be opposed to a 3 terms, but in terms of saying like doing it specifically to get your guy, that's a little disturbing to me. And so, but the idea, if you think he's going to do like goes without that, he's just going to run without, so that Congress isn't going to pass anything, and then he'll just do it because he says, screw you all, I am king. Then no, I don't think that's going to happen. But Congress could, I mean, again, that's the only thing you could say is, but right now there's zero support for it. But theoretically, in 2 years, if everyone in Congress said that they wanted a 3rd term, what am I supposed to say? No, I don't like it. That's not my call.
Well, I'd be curious because I would imagine it'd have to be an amendment just truly to amend the language of the current amendment. I'm forgetting, it was 22nd, I think.
Yeah. Is actually is term limits actually in the, actually I don't know that. Is 2 term limits in the,
it should be, I think it's 22nd, but I'm blanking on the exact one. It says,
you're right.
Yeah. So it'd have to be an amendment. I guess Congress could try to say what the amendment means, but then Supreme Court will almost certainly strike it down.
It'd lose.
Yeah.
We have an originalist court. You're not going anywhere with that. Sorry.
Right. So yeah, it'd have to be an amendment. And gosh, I've seen people on X like circulating because there was like a pamphlet that was being circulated around CPAC that was like, it's called like the 3rd term project. And yeah, Bannon is associated with it.
They have a ridiculous like legal theory to try and argue that it's not consecutive. It's the same thing everyone does when they want something. They want to pretend the law means something that like they want to go, I have a cockamamie legal theory that's full of crap that I think I can go, can I get people to swallow the bullshit? And you can get your followers to swallow, but are you going to get the courts? That was the whole Eastman thing. It goes, Eastman's little stupid theory thing. Jacob even said to him, he goes, if you do this, you know what happens? They walk across the street and go to the Supreme Court, who will make an emergency hearing, and you will lose 9-0. And he goes 8-1. He goes, really? Who's the one? And he's like, he goes like mumbled quietly. He goes, okay, I guess I'd lose. He goes, so yeah, so you're like, there's no outcome. He goes, even if you get what you want, you'll get by yourself. You'll create chaos and buy yourself a day. You're insane. And it's like, that was, no. And so same thing with that. There's constantly people. Good.
But no, by the way, that's I don't know if you heard, but when I first talked with Ryan, that was like one of his first questions to me was like, he explained that his main hurdle with voting Trump 2024 was he couldn't get around the elector scheme. And so he asked me like, how did I get around that as an attorney and who is actually familiar with the scheme and the facts of it. And that was basically my answer was like, yeah, I thought it was really bad. But at the end of the day, I see it as, yeah, it was a crackpot novel legal theory who the proponent of it acknowledged it was going to get struck down immediately 9-0. And
Yeah.
so if we're going to say now anytime someone advances a novel legal theory, then all of a sudden now that's like the end of the world and ultra illegal. It's like, yeah, certainly the consequences of this legal theory were a lot broader and more destructive than the
Yeah.
consequences of other novel legal theories, but it doesn't change the preliminary fact that it was a novel interpretation of the Electoral Count Act. They thought they interpreted it the way they did. Everyone agreed it was pretty stupid. They tried to effectuate their legal theory, even at the end, even if, let's say, because Mike Pence, full credit to being the one to
Yep.
say, yeah, I'm not going to do this. Sucks that, cost his political career. But let's even assume, let's say he goes along with it. Yeah, it's like you said, it'd be an emergency hearing set in the
Yeah.
Supreme
They
Court
walk across the
immediately.
street. And also,
Yeah,
you also, and here's the thing. There's even people who seem to think that like when he said like reject the electors, it means like it goes to the one state, one vote thing. I'm like, that isn't like, have you guys not read, like Jacob is the attorney for vice president who was the one defending, like who was on the country's side, guys. He was our big guy. He's our hero. That wasn't his thought. Why? How is it you summoned forth that which the guy in the room who was on your side couldn't summon forth? Because the position was that, and even if you got that, the states told you no every step of the way. The executive told you, all of the states, and you think they're suddenly you're going to stab them in the back, and they're going to suddenly flip to your side. You'd still lose because you're not going to get shit out of it. There's no winning. Like, if you think, or they'll abstain. And you go, you think you're going to get through an abstain? He goes, you've lost your mind. He goes, the answer was, that's what even what Jacobs told him. He goes, what do you think happens here, huh? What do you think happens? He goes, the issue also I run into is saying that actions tell me what you think. That if you tell me that like there's a dog that entered your house and you're like, I was feared for my life, I thought I was going to die. And I show a video and I go, this is you snuggling the dog. I'm like, yes, so what? It means there's different trauma responses. I'm like, okay, but like the dog just walked in and you're like, hey, puppy. And I'm like, oh, I have Tourette's. And I say, hey, I'm like, what did you do that made this show? He goes, well, I mean, that doesn't matter. Like, just because like I don't act appropriately doesn't mean it's not one. And you're like, okay, I know, but you have to explain to me why your actions are inconsistent with the belief. If you like, even if it meets all the criteria, the problem is you can't act. None of your actions belie it. Jacob didn't go like, my God, this is a coup attempt. He treated it as a legal theory and wrote a counter brief explaining why he was wrong.
Yeah.
When the electors things happened, there was news articles in each state of them doing this, and none of them saw it as fraudulent. It wasn't done in secret. And so even if afterwards you can try and argue, like, then why didn't, if it was fraudulent then, and there was people writing articles on it saying how ineffective it was.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, they said they were. I'm like, that's not how you do it. They even pointed out in the hearing, they go, they were uncertified. Certification isn't a claim you make. It's a stamp and a seal that they didn't have. And that's, Jacobs even goes, he goes, we have an uncertified slate. And he goes, there's nothing you can do. Because part of it was, they didn't even, the amount of the time, the speed at which this all happened, because it was like a month. You really can't judicially challenge a presidential election. There's no time. Yeah. If you've litigated, dude, I can barely get them to tell me their name and what their claims are within 30 days. They always need a 2-week extension. And you think you're going to fully litigate you're not doing crap. It's over. You have to either convince the legislator or the executive that something's wrong. And they didn't do that. You can't rely, if they won't do it, the judiciary is not fast enough. But it's like, I don't like, every single time I've watched like Destiny argue with some person who thinks that like Jan 6 wasn't an insurrection, they come up with those bizarre like argument about like maglocks or like whether the feds were there. And I'm just going like, I don't have to argue. He goes, I can even grant. He goes, let's say technically it fits it. It doesn't change the fact that the reaction, you're telling me that he was leading so Trump is leading an insurrection against the country. Okay, there's about 100,000 people there. They're about the craziest people that can possibly be, like, these are the most cultist people, 100,000 cultists basically. Yeah. And 2,000 of them went in, which means 2%. So you said it was clear and obvious that he was calling them to action to go destroy the country, and all of his cultists heard it, and 98% of his cultists apparently missed the message. Yeah. And of the 2,000 that went in, only one of them got shot, and even she like, and people are like, oh my God, that door was so important. I'm like, she fell back into other security guards that were armed and just standing there going like, oh, the bitch got shot. Like, it just, I'm sorry. I think the answer is it's bad, but it wasn't bad enough. I'm like, no one's actions, the actions of people like goes like, oh my God, Trump's leading insurrection was to bring him a Diet Coke and say, sir, please tweet something, please. I'm like, I'm sorry. You're saying he's trying to install himself as a fascist dictatorship, and your option is, here's a Coke, please tweet, Mr. President. I'm like, you've doomed. I can't help. Like, if your actions all tell me that you think, and all the people in charge, why didn't they have national grounds on them? They were discussing it, and they discuss it and saying like, what are the? It's going to look optically bad if we have the National Guard clashing with them. And it goes, do we want to do that? That's a discussion for riots because it does matter. It looks bad. The reason we like let rioters somewhat get away with shit is because cracking down on them can silence protesters. I mean, it makes it look bad. And so you have to go, is the rioting bad enough that the optics of us is it going to look like we're trying to stamp out free speech? And so, but if it's an insurrection, you wouldn't go like, they're storming the beaches, but I don't know, how's it going to look if we're like really fighting? No, it's an insurrection, kill them all. And so like and the thing is that even if it fits all the definitions, your action, same thing with like the CHOP, that whole autonomous zone.
Oh yeah.
It can meet all the hell, they could have been, I think they were like trying to get protection money from people. It can meet all the criteria, but the reality is they let it slide for a while and then they removed it. So it doesn't really fit. Like the idea of saying, give me a definition kind of thing is the same thing. It goes, no one acted like it. So you're not going to be able to convince anyone of it. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if the criteria fit. And it goes, the Whiskey Rebellion. It goes, the Whiskey Rebellion went on for 2 years before we actually even mustered a militia. If it had ended in a week, it wouldn't have been a rebellion, even though it would have been the exact same thoughts and even the definitions would all fit. But it was like, yeah, they got angry, they bitched and moaned for a bit, and then they stopped. And we all moved on with it. It wouldn't have been considered one. But after 2 years, hostage taking, tarring and feathering, burning tax collectors' house down, you know what our reaction to it was? It wasn't to give them a Diet Coke. It was to muster militia to kill them all. At which point, all those little pansies like fucking laid down their arms. 100 got arrested, 2 got convicted, and the president's like, you understand what we can fucking do? You see we can enforce our laws now? Yeah, we get it. Okay, fine. Pardoned. Go home. Don't like it was like a lesson to all of you motherfuckers. Yes, the federal government can impose taxes. Don't fuck with us. Like, but it was a 2-year thing versus going, it goes any delay. If it was delayed for like a week, I could maybe even like then you might have a better argument. But it's like it was 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it was bad. It wasn't like you can't be losing your shit over this because unfortunately it wasn't bad enough and no one acted like it. The only person who acted like it was the one guy who shot 1 bullet. Good luck to him, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Like, and I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean that as like people get so angry over that as well. I'm just like, I can't. If no one acts like it, then you're gonna lose. You can't act like it's a riot and then call it one afterwards post hoc. You can't say that all the electoral thing was so horrific when you knew it was happening at the time and no one gave a shit. And everyone's writing legal arguments whether it's okay or not or what it does or doesn't do. And then afterwards go, my God, guys, did you know that they did this? Yeah, everyone knew it. What the fuck are you talking about? And it's like everyone knew that there was news articles written on it. It wasn't a secret. What? Why wasn't it fraud then? Well, because Jan 6 hadn't. If no one had actually gone inside the building and done anything, there would be no charges against anyone.
And that's what I've thought about that of like, how would, what does the alternate timeline look like where there was only the elector scheme? Or alternatively, if there was only the riot and no elector scheme, like how would that change the math? My feeling is like, I feel like the messaging from the Democrats would not change a bit. They would still call both a coup.
Yep.
The riot would probably be more, they'd call that, because and that's my main criticism of the Dems when it comes to Jan 6 is like, they focus so closely in on the riot part of it. And about cops were attacked and they stormed the building and they tried to.
The elector scheme is far more severe. The problem is, like I said, that you lose it the second I look up and find news articles at the time they were doing it. That no one said like, oh my God, these false electors, I can't believe the world's ending. And you're like, no, they were going like, here's what their legal theory they're working on. Here's why I think it's wrong. And there's people like, your actions showed that you didn't think it was that. Therefore, you can't post hoc it afterwards and then try and tell me, oh my God, it was so evil at the time. You're like, you knew all of it. You knew all of it and you did nothing then. You can't, and I get like the reason you're doing it is because of the riot. If the riot hadn't happened, if the Jan 6 hadn't happened, everyone had just basically stayed outside the building, then nothing would have happened. The electors would have like gone like, yep. Then all of it as a follow-up article saying, see, bitches, I was right. Their stupid elector thing was stupid. Ha ha ha, I win. I'm a smarter legal mind. Yeah. And that would all be what it was. But there's not but again, it's really hard to argue against people who feel, and the thing is, they're not wrong. Fuck those people who entered the building. Like, fuck it. Like, the thing is, and again, I have a pretty harsh view that goes, if you'd killed the first 12 that fucking broke the windows and climbed through, no one else would have climbed through. I've been like, no, if you smashed a window and climbed into our Capitol, like, what is security for exactly? It goes, I'm like, traitor, like, what are you doing? You just smashed, if you're breaking, like, literally, like, you are like a home invading our Capitol building.
Castle
I don't need to wait with a, I'm like, that guy who broke a window, shoot him. The next ones aren't coming in. Everyone's like, well, they didn't have enough bullets for all of them. They're not a zombie horde, you idiot. Like, when Ashley Babbitt got shot, remember, there was a room full of rioters inside the building and armed guards with weapons, and everyone's just looking at her going, that bitch just gets shot? I think she did, man. Like, that was the reaction. That would have been the reaction if you shot the person who climbed through the window. Is no one's going, I'm climbing through next, into the meat grinder, once more into the breach, my fellow grandmas.
Hey, it's got to finish the fight. Cue that Halo music.
I'm like, if you'd shot the first dozen, there wouldn't have been any more.
You see, let me counter that with my big brain truthers right here. The reason they didn't shoot those first 12 is because they were feds.
Yeah. The feds in the building. Yeah, the feds were. Yeah, the security guards were feds. Yeah, they were federal security. What the hell? I knew it.
The first 12 who breached.
The first people who breached in.
Those were undercover FBI agents. See?
Everything. My God, the blank check of just they're all feds. Everything's feds, man.
Yeah.
Like, it gets. That's the thing is that each time I remember actually, I think it was actually after the Trump assassination, Destiny did like a Twitter panel with like a bunch of people. And my God, I've never, like, honestly, the biggest thing that makes me think January 6th is a coup is the people who think it's not explaining why they think it's not. I'm like, wait, if this is why if you all think it's not because of magnetic locks in the building, if that's the only wall for you, then I guess fuck it. He wins. He's right. Mag locks have nothing to do with it. So I guess it was like, that's probably your best bet. Don't explain it. Just show me all the nutsos who think that like the Fed posters or the people who think that a lock system or they have some weird theory. And I'm like, you know what? If that's the only reason everyone thinks it's not a coup, those are all stupid. So it must be. Like, you'll get me there.
I swear, I feel like there are so many. I don't think they're actually psyops, but they totally feel like psyops sometimes with some of the people who proclaim to be champions of a political movement. It's like,
yeah. So I did
critical analysis of what they say. It's like, well, yeah, it's just recruitment ads for the other side because
and I'm like, I hope they're psyops because my God, there was actually. I'm curious. You mind if I ask you about the Trump getting elected, like, so that whether he's eligible or not, the insurrectionist. What do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, we'll wrap up with this topic. But yeah, could you ask me the question again?
Sure. It has to do with like whether. So Colorado tried to remove him from the ballot, saying he's not eligible due to like being an insurrectionist. And the court found that like no, Colorado can't decide it. Congress would have to pass something saying he is. Mm-hmm. What are your do you have a view on it? Like,
I think, I mean, yeah, I have to go back and read for the kind of a full opinion, but I think what I remember from the time was feeling like, yeah, this just feels completely improper to have a state, because we're talking about these concurrent sovereigns, right? The states in the United States. To have a singular state when it comes to a federal election, trying to unilaterally declare that a candidate has engaged in insurrection because we say so, and therefore he's not allowed on the ballot. Yeah, that just seems like such an unworkable solution, or just a power for the state to have that you would need some sort of federal hook, and most likely the hook would be an impeachment and conviction in the Senate.
The hook, I can tell you, like, so there's a history of this. We've had someone, he was elected after the Civil War. He was elected to hold office, and he showed up, and they go, wait a second, weren't you were one of those guys? And he goes, no, I wasn't. I was an accountant. I didn't have any, I was no oath. Because he goes, you're not an oath breaker. I was in finance. And so the Senate held a hearing and held a vote that said, are you an insurrection? Like, are we going to let you sit or not? They said, yes, you can. And that's how he did it before. We've done this before. Nothing's unprecedented. We've done this before. The thing is,
I think it's unprecedented because I don't know the precedent.
Yep. The thing is, my view is, Congress has said something. It goes, Congress held a thing saying, did he incite an insurrection? And they found him not guilty. And people are like, oh, they did it for jurisdictional reasons. Irrelevant. We have a verdict. A verdict says he is not guilty of inciting an insurrection. I'm sorry, but like, that's my view, is going like, the only thing we have from Congress is not guilty. Congress has stayed silent besides that, which means that the state deciding it on their own. No, a state, in the same sense that like, if Congress, like, he's a major candidate. One thing that's bizarre is to say that if you have a major candidate and there's an actual dispute as to, let's say, their age, some people say he's 20, some people say he's 40, and the idea goes, shouldn't Congress say something? Because the reason why a state can remove someone who's ineligible is because their only interest is in not wasting their vote. Because if Congress won't sit him, then the state has an interest in not putting forth someone that won't be sat, because that's a waste of their votes. That has an interest. But if Congress will sit them, they have no interest. If Congress says the guy's 40 and the state says he's 20, they can't remove him from the ballot for being 20 because they have no. Congress will sit them. You're not going to, like, you have no state. There's no state interest at threat here, because you're saying, well, he's not 35. You're not the enforcer of that. Congress is. Congress says you're wrong. It doesn't even matter if you're right, because your state interest has been absolved. He will be sat. If you give him the votes, Congress will sit him. The state has no right, has interest. They have no standing, basically. There's no interest for them to be defending here. And so, but even Colorado, actually, and I reread it, Colorado wasn't trying to actually decide it. They, what they were trying to, I listened to the oral arguments for them. Even the actual court that found that, yes, he was, suspended their own ruling and goes, do not enforce. He goes, he is an insurrection. Do not remove him from the ballot. We didn't wait. He goes, I expect you're going to appeal. That was the plan. The plan was to try and bring it to the Supreme Court. And they go, and if the Supreme Court doesn't get to it in time, forget us. Just let him stay on the ballot. So the Supreme Court didn't get to it in time. Trump would have been on the ballot. They weren't, so they had no intention of unilaterally deciding anything. And even during the hearing, they were trying to create a complete record, because what they wanted was the Supreme Court to actually decide on the merits, is he an insurrectionist or not? Yeah, and they said, no, Congress does that, not us. And that's it. And so that's what, so that even Colorado was not, they knew that they couldn't do that, and they weren't trying to. That's what they kept saying, like, no one's disputing that we have a complete record. We're not saying we can do it on our own. We're saying we've presented to you the fact. You decide on the merits. Are we right? Are we right? Or is he 35 or is he not? You tell us. And then their response is, and I think correctly, to say, not us either, bruh. It's Congress. Because if Congress wants to, if Congress came out and said, yes, he's an insurrectionist, that's it. It's over. If they said he's not 35, it doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. Congress says he's not.
I'm looking it up now. Is it Trump v. Anderson? Is that,
I think so.
Right? Yeah.
I've had people trying to say, like, well, we can determine who's 35 and who's not, or who's, like, because we can decide all those other states decide all those other things. And their answer is, they're right. They remove people who aren't 35. They've removed people who are not natural born citizens, because there's never been a dispute as to what they are. If there was truly time magic and we didn't, and how old the person is was in question because they went through a time vortex, we may have a genuine dispute. We haven't yet. Every single case I could find on these things, the person admits. He goes, so if I say, goes, are you 35? No, I'm 20. Okay, then we're not putting you on the ballot. Well, you can't decide that. I didn't. We don't disagree. You're not 35, are you? No, I'm not. There's no dispute. So there's no case. You lose. For the natural born citizen, the thing was to say, he admitted he wasn't a natural born citizen, but he goes, he thinks the 11th Amendment invalidated it. And they said, no, it's not. And if he wanted to appeal it, he could have appealed it to try and say the Supreme Court, but he didn't appeal it. That they made their determination, and then it goes up to the Supreme Court. But the reality is, he admitted he wasn't a natural born citizen. So there's never been a case when people try and say, like, yeah, we remove people for those mundane things, when there's no dispute. No one's arguing time magic, and no one's arguing that they're, like, whether, if you just admit to it, you have to have a dispute. And so for insurrectionists, if he said, yes, I'm an insurrectionist, then they could remove him, even if you think he's not. It doesn't matter. If he says he is, then the state can tell. He goes, I didn't challenge. I didn't decide anything. He told us he wasn't. He told us he's not eligible, so we didn't put him on. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, it's like in court sometimes, where you can have something that would otherwise be inadmissible into evidence, but if the defendant admits it in open court, then boom, now it's admissible. Yeah.
Yep. They can open. So opening the door. I think during
right.
The guy tried to do that during the the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and the judge came down on him where he thought, like, he decided the door was open, gosh. And he's like, they're just like, that was for me to decide, not you.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was great. No, exactly that. Yeah, you can bring in inadmissible things, because you can't. If I have video of you killing someone and you testimony on your own and say, there's never been any video of me killing someone, you can't lie, and so now they can use it to impeach your testimony.
Yeah.
100%. And so but
that's the thing. I wanted to look up the opinion just to see the ruling. I remembered it being strong, but I want to see if it was 6-3 or better.
It's 9-0, but
9-0. But then, I've got it pulled up. Our three lovely ladies, not dissenting, but effectively dissenting.
In a sense, the thing is that I agree. Their dissent is correct. So the follow-up, so saying that no, Colorado can't do it, that's holding. The rest of it is dicta to an extent. You can't decide things that aren't before you. Technically you can, but it goes, its power is limited because now I don't have to overturn it. I can just have to distinguish myself from it. Because that's like actually the whole the birthright citizenship coming up. He's not trying to overturn Wong Kim Ark. He's trying to distinguish himself from it. So even if Trump wins on that, Wong Kim Ark stands. It's because it doesn't get, he would still be a citizen. Therefore, it's not overturned. The court decided something that's not before it, which still can have weight, but it's far more vulnerable because if I don't have to overturn your case, that makes it vulnerable. Same thing with here. That additional thing of saying like Congress has to pass something is vulnerable because you decided something that wasn't before you.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder though, and maybe I'm being too uncharitable, and maybe it's more being influenced by other cases where they did openly dissent, and just thinking of a world where we did not have the court composition we currently have. And if we did have a 5-4 or 6-3 liberal majority, how many just huge, like the OSHA vax mandate that would have been upheld. I'm pretty sure, or was that 902? Am I wrong?
People seem to think that, like, if Garland was something, all these things would flip. Like if they were 6-3s, they'd just become 5-4s. You'd still lose, and somehow people go, no. Garland would somehow psychically like blood manipulate people and make them like that's not okay. Yeah. That's a little. You think that he's going to come out convince the other Clarence? Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And they did. I was right. It was 6-3 for the vax case. So yeah, if we would
even if they got Garland, it would have been 5-4. Like you still would have lost. There is like. The thing is that it doesn't, whether it's a 6-3 or a 5-4 win, and the idea of saying like, well, you don't know that Garland maybe would have asked a question that would have changed. He goes, I don't know that the sun hasn't exploded, the light hasn't hit me yet. This is ridiculous. You can't tell me that like, because it was 5-4, he was going to somehow magically turn it into a 6-3, that he was going to change that judge's opinion. I'm like, you think he's what is he, a god? Like, I don't know what you like. I can't presume that he's somehow going to change control his own vote. You control his vote, and he's going to somehow convince everyone else. And I'm like, I don't think that's. I can't assume it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that I would never start from that position. If you can, you'd have to go show me the argument that he would like. Show me like some article he wrote that makes the judge go, "Oh my God, I did made the wrong decision because Garland told me so." If you can't do that, then shut up. But
yeah. So yeah, but even the Garland point aside, let's say they get Garland, but let's say Trump would have lost, and now you've got Kennedy steps down, and then
RBG. I don't think he would have stepped down. The thing is, remember they're stepping down when they want when they have like a line. True. So that's how they normally do it. It's been that way forever. It's been for 50 years. Reagan was the last. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess we can't say for sure that it would have gone 6-3 for the libs if Trump had lost 2016, but either way. Like how many huge cases of just would have just like consequential, like for the ages type decisions that would have come down, that would have just been not just like a 70s, like, oh, we're just going to find a right here and find a right here. And like, those are big cases, but like,
I wonder, like even the immunity thing, I don't know if they didn't know they were on the losing side of it, I don't know if they'd actually pull, because the thing is, remember a lot of what they said was like just a critique of the majority. It wasn't really putting forth their own position. And Jackson put forth some of her own, but again, it was pretty ad hoc there as well. And I go, I don't think it would just be, it's like, I think it's very easy to just like be the peanut gallery and point at the majority and tell them how stupid you think they are. But if suddenly you're the majority and you have to craft a rule like this, I don't think you just go like, you're not going to get the same thing. I think you would have gotten, I don't know what they would have done. I don't think they would have been like, go for it, destroy them all. I think they would have actually created far more strict. I think even they would have upset people who really want to go after Trump, because I don't think they would have just gone brazenly. Because again, I don't think the minority didn't really lay out what they would do.
I think that's actually a really wise and intuitive point, that when you're in the dissent, you can just kind of say whatever you want, and just all you have to do is just explain why the majority is wrong. And why they're terrible and horrible. It's the same as kind of Republicans and their approach to Obamacare. It's like, it's so horrible, it's terrible, we hate it, we're going to repeal and replace. But then when it came time to repeal and replace, it was like, okay, so what is your affirmative plan? Not just that Obamacare sucks, what's your replacement plan? And they really didn't have one. So when it's your time to govern, when it's your time to craft a majority opinion that will be a framework for the entire country to abide by, It gets a lot more difficult, and you don't get to be as hyperbolic. So
the Supreme Court justices aren't insane. None of them aren't. Even no, like not a single one of them. Not Sotomayor, not Kagan. Like I said, when they are far fierier in their dissents. Like find me the fiery majority. There's not a lot of them. They're usually, because the thing is, they know that they have to write something measured to explain things to everyone. The dissent gets to just say, if they're just again, it's very easy to be the peanut gallery. It's super easy.
Yep.
And so the thing is, and that's also where, again, if you want to spit some fire, that's where you do it. But I think people, if you read your own dissent, you go, if they were the majority, I don't ever think they would spit anywhere near as much. Otherwise, they don't, because you don't see. I don't think I see Scalia in majority opinions ever spitting fire.
He'll throw his classic jokes in there, but you're right. It's nowhere near the fire he's got in his dissents.
Yeah, his dissents. The thing is that because that's where you feel, because also it's where you're pointing. If you think they're wrong, say why it's they didn't. I expect some fire from you. Yeah. But because again, you're trying to dissent with them. But so even the people who seem to think like don't like the decisions, I think they're wrong if they think that if they'd gone the other way, they would have gotten everything that they wanted. And you're like, don't think you would the idea of nuke Trump wouldn't have been it. Sorry, we've been going on for 2.5 hours, man. It's I'm supposed to be a post-mortem. I think I've taken up more of your time than the actual debate.
Hey, it's all good. I appreciate it. I was going to finish off with actually 2 things real quick. I've got Chapingro. Realized was not subbed and rectified it. And actually, the reason I wanted to highlight that is because you are sub number 1900 exactly. So
congrats.
Big shout out, Chapingro. Appreciate that. And as much as we love you, we've got to dunk on you for a second. So this will be our last thing to talk about. So Chapingro saying OSHA is an executive agency, correct? Therefore, unitary executive theory with Biden would have had all our hair on fire, even more than what we suffered as is. I see why you're making the point. I can see where it's coming from. The main limitation I think you're missing with your analysis here with this question is just because the executive, assuming they are the unitary executive and they have all the power of the executive, that does not save them from acting, that does not save them from being struck down by the judiciary if they act outside of their authority as the executive.
Yeah, or arbitrary and capriciously is another thing they can get you on. That's what like the whole DACA thing. Like they can all, so you can't, if you go off the rails, the court will strike you down, and you're probably gonna have to back down if you go all the way. But the other part is, even if it's true, so what it doesn't matter. If the executive is the one with all the power, you can't tell me that like, well, what if they do bad things with it? They got voted in. The court, it's not there to do what you want, and the court isn't there to rein him in to make him do the things you personally want. If someone that you don't like is in charge, like that's why you go, when they didn't deport anyone. Even the deportations that Democrats do, it's always like at the board, like turning someone away at the border, which counts as deportation, rather than actually removing them. That's their discretion to do so. You can think that like that's an abuse of power. They're not enforcing laws. They're breaking their oaths. But it's his discretion. If Congress doesn't like it, they can do something about it. You have to allow your opponents to basically wield power just as you would. If the unitary executive theory cuts against as well, you got to accept it.
And that's where, when you take it specifically to the Vax case, it's the question of whether is it within the executive power to mandate that OSHA of all agencies has the authority to require that for workplace safety that 100 million Americans are going to have to get the vaccine against their will.
And the actual answer?
And the actual answer would be no, because it exceeds the authority of what OSHA was created to do. Basically, there's too many conflicting rights at play of what about the right to bodily autonomy? Not in the sense that that's a constitutional right, but we can argue, the right to privacy. That's probably the one substantive due process right that's the most well recognized and established.
He would have. I think. Thing is, my response is it depends. The thing is, COVID wasn't enough to do it. But if you imagine, there could have been a disease that had, let's say, it's Ebola. To stop, if it's an emergency enough situation, that's how they won on the whole Japanese internment camps. That was an insane ruling. But it basically was 100% unconstitutional. But wartime, be crazy, guys. Come on. And so it's same thing there. If suddenly we had weaponized Ebola in our country and we were all like spewing out our organs and we had a vaccine that people were trying to be little bitches about not taking, and we're all like dying, like we're just dying at unreal rates, I don't believe the court's gonna go like, no, guys, you gotta let him. He was gonna say, no, the circumstances are so dire that they'd give him some sort of emergency. There'd be some finding. They're not gonna let us all die. But the problem is COVID, the whole 99% survival. Like it wasn't deadly enough to constitute, like, because again, narrowly tailored to serve a compelling government interest. That if you can reach that standard, you can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah, no, that is
And if
true, and
Ebola
that's
would have like,
actually that is the precedent of. I know you're probably familiar with Jacobson v. Massachusetts, which was the kind of the only precedent mandatory vax case we've got. It's from 1905, which had to do with what, polio, I think.
yeah.
So there certainly is precedent. I think you are right about there can be a balancing test, but when it came to COVID, it did not rise to that level, and as such, and I would still argue too. I think if that's the case, if that's the balancing test, then I would still expect it to probably be a congressional law that would have to get passed, not just an executive order.
I'd
Um,
expect we wouldn't have if we had weaponized Ebola, but if we had people's actually like just throwing up their organs and liquefying inside of them, and like if there was like something severe about it, if it was bad enough, then I think the government would act, and I don't think there'd be an anti-vaxxer thing to fight back, basically, because also they'd probably all catch it and die within a week. So
yeah,
the
yeah,
problem is
that's
that
kind of
COVID wasn't the thing is it's a bad flu that killed people, and I get it that it's like it was severe. It killed like there was bodies stacking up in like New York. I get it. Like the problem is it wasn't it's not Ebola. It wasn't
yeah,
liquefying people's organs. It wasn't something that you could just say you get it for. And like I took all the vaccines, man. I think it's my work. Like why? Because I was looking for a job at the time, and so I'm like, hey, I'm not. I don't want to say that I'm not. They're gonna ask me that question. I want to have my little card that says yes. So I don't.
yeah,
Because also, I'm not the one who says ascertain. He goes, it's dangerous. I don't. I'm not a vaccine expert. I don't. If I am doomed if I'm the one doing my own research on that. I'm gonna have to just kind of like put my trust and like just say like sorry, like if we're doomed anyways. Because also if it does kill us all, the country's down anyways. I like might as well go down with it. Hell, like we're all doomed. If all of us die from a vaccine that was wrong, I honestly rather not be here for it.
Yeah, I agree with this point that if it's that bad, and we do have the cure, we do have the solution to vaccine. Yeah, I don't even think you're going to be at the point you need to compel anybody to get it. It's going to be a fight over who can get it at that point.
Yes, and the few people that would be fighting against it wouldn't be enough to put up any sort of resistance. Unfortunately, there probably still be some small going like, no, they're the ones causing it. There's gonna be some Illuminati sayer, but the problem is there's not gonna be enough of them. You're going super crackly.
Uh-oh. How's that?
There, I can hear you. It's better.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so we just had to, well, sounds like Zetsui might have actually taken Chipingro's side. I dunked on Chipingro, at least I tried to. Maybe I was dunked on in my own right. But I will finish by edifying our boy Chipingro with this one. Yeah. One smaller exec, and then you'll be the biggest UET advocate. And I think that's the idea that the founders had, right? Was that the executive would be relatively limited in its function to, Article 2 of the Constitution, what the enumerated powers are. And it's only our new era of the administrative state and just this vast executive expansion that makes unitary executive theory like what we're talking about right now, right? We're talking about OSHA, we're talking about the ATF. Like these are all agencies that were created that were never contemplated by the founders. And so when you keep it within a strict constitutional vision of like what does Article 2 provide for, then I think unitary executive is a lot more appealing because it's a lot more limited. So I think this is a correct comment.
Yeah. But arguing that we've made the executive too big, therefore we can't have what the Constitution says is not a good is a bad legal argument. It's a fail. It goes. It can't just be that like, look, I know it says that, but come on, that can't be the answer. The answer is stop giving. Like if you don't like it, then stop giving it to the federal government. But as long as you keep doing it, sorry, unitary executive is true. Even if it has bad consequences, you have to live with them. You can't just not ignore the Constitution just because like things can be constitutional and bad.
That's why, I agree. Yeah, it's one of those. I think I've heard Scalia was the first one I ever heard. I think it was even before law school. Actually, make the statement of I'm an originalist, which means I have to interpret the Constitution as it is, even when I don't like the outcome.
Yep.
And that's kind of what my first realization of like, oh, I should be an originalist too, because anything that requires you to actually exercise restraint upon your preferred political outcome, I think is just generally a good bellwether for good governance. And that's what originalism is. You can't just say the Constitution is a living document and I can just read into it whatever I want to be in there. Actually show judicial restraint, I think, is a good thing. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that from Chipingo. And then also I completely agree with this too. Repealing the simple plan. Uh-oh.
I don't know if actually you can check your chat to see if it's true, because I don't know if it's just me, but to me you're
No, it's probably it's good now.
no, you're still crackling. Can't hear you.
How about now?
Nope. You're still crackling. Try again. And now it's just me. I can't even see his chat. So
Testing. Okay, how's that?
there you go. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I need to get a new mic. This is like a $50 blue snowball that I just cropped up with a fancy mic stand to make it look official. But yeah, I was saying, yeah, I completely agree with this assessment of the Republican healthcare plan, which is unfortunate. Wish we could do better than that, but it's all good. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, I appreciate you for watching the Snap debate, and we took a wide ranging conversation. What I appreciate, I think, I view you as one of our core members of the reasonable right, and so I think it's definitely going to be good to get on the same page and just kind of learn where each other's at, so we can be more effective, be more cohesive as a team. So yeah, definitely appreciate Zetsui for being here. Chapingro and Zero Fucks, and also Inexius, thank you for our new member for being here, and our two OGs, classics. So yeah, it's been a good night, but yeah, I'm tired. I was supposed to watch my Orlando Magic. They played tonight, and I missed it for the Snap debate, and I was planning to hop on after and watch some of that, but it's too late for that now. I'm ready to go to bed. So yeah, you got anything coming up? Any debates?
Can you hear me? Oh
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay. I was like, it's like saying that, like, cutting out, but no. I mean, like I said, I'm not a content creator, so I just show up when someone happens to ask me. Wick is probably the only one who ever reaches out for actual things. So
I got you. Well, you definitely will be featured on Ordered Liberty very soon again. Probably not this upcoming week, unless we need an emergency sub and you're available.
yep, keep me in mind.
I'm trying not to do like weekly repeats, but definitely, if needed, every other week, I think will be appropriate. Unless maybe my pool is small enough right now where I just need good contributors, especially too. We got the tariff case we're planning on talking about next week. So if you're interested in that, then it may make sense.
I'd say I think you're better. Like, don't try and do repeat guests. You probably want to have a nice little rotating cast. But if you want to keep me in your back pocket, always available. I mean, most Sundays I'm available. But otherwise, yeah, just let me know.
Gotcha. Hey, sounds good. And Nexius, you are smart enough for these talks, so don't do yourself like that. We love you, and yeah, definitely stick around. We got a lot of big brain conversations on this channel, on Ryan Mullally's channel, Order Liberty podcast, all that good stuff. So yeah, and Nexius, it says he's available. Okay, we may have to talk a little more about that then. So yeah. Anyway, well, y'all, appreciate you once again for being here. Zetsui, great chat.
Have a good night.
Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Yeah, you have a good night too. All right, folks. Yeah, it's bedtime. So thank you again. I know I've already said it a bunch of times, but it really does mean a lot. And you guys make great contributors in the chat. So yeah, and Nexius, are you in the Natural Law Discord? I guess, yeah, I'm curious how you found us here. Let's see. There's got to be a way I can check members, right? I'm such a Discord noob. It's terrible. Service people. Can I do? I lurked my way here. Might have to check it out. Yeah, I would say, how do I share? Invite people. Copy. There we go. Well, if you're not in the Discord, there's the link for it. It's not mine, it's Ryan's, but we are working closely together and building out a movement of the reasonable right of folks who think folks who are seeking to take Americans back to the American founding principles and reassert the moral proposition that America was built upon, and use that framework to interpret the modern big news of the week. So and the way that practically plays out is we look at the left and we see them as having gone completely off the rails and captured by woke. And then we look at the right and we worry that the right is starting to get captured by woke as well. But it's early and we can fight back against it. So that's why we call ourselves the reasonable right, because we're not the woke right. We're not ultra MAGA. We are folks who try to have principled conservative positions and are looking to build a future post-Trump is basically the idea. So, all right. Yeah. Hey, you are in there. Welcome. I'm gonna wave to you too. And let me go ahead and send you a friend request. Okay. Yeah, I just sent you a friend request. Yeah, if you got, you don't need a camera, but you definitely need a mic. But yeah, basically every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we talk about the news of the week. It's me and Ryan are the co-hosts, and then from there, like you kind of heard from Zetsui, we're gonna have the plan is to have a rotating panel of guests each week. Last week we had Zetsui and Tally, and this upcoming week I've got a few that I've been talking with. I haven't firmed anybody up yet, but yeah, if you've got a mic and you keep up with the news of the week and just want to contribute to the discussion, then we can definitely work you in as a guest panelist. So Chapingro, ideas on next stream date. Let's see. Am I doing I feel like I'm doing something tomorrow after work, but I can't think of what it is right now. I will tell you what, I have been so fascinated by this Ben Shapiro video that he made calling out Tucker and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, calling them out directly. That video he made, 40 something minutes, calling them out by name and bringing the receipts, bringing the clips to just show exactly who these people are, and that they are not positive contributing forces to the right. I've been so encapsulated by that video and now the response to that video, because it's kind of like I just laid out in like our vision to an XTS here, is our goal here, our position here is we look at the left and they've just gone insane with woke. We look at the right and we're concerned that they're starting to go woke as well. And we need to stamp out that, and basically it's like an infection, it's like a virus. And that's not just hyperbole. Nick Fuentes has openly said that he has impregnated the right, like literally. He impregnated it and now is taking it over from within. Yeah, so if that's our main criticism of the American political scene right now, is that the entire left has gone insane, and there's a wing of the right that is also going insane, and we need to stand back against that. Ben Shapiro's video, I think, completely exposed that observation, or affirmed that observation, because all the lefties are responding to it basically saying that like there is no difference between Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes, that all right-wingers are all in the same camp, and therefore they're all Nazis. So that's been the left response to the video. And then you've got the Fuentes wing of the right, the Tucker Carlson Fuentes wing of the right, who's coming out and saying that this is like, you will not silence us. You're the old news. We're the new news. We're taking over. And a lot of people that are getting offended that Ben would even make a video like that on the right. So yeah, I just found I've been in Twitter arguments with both sides. I've been arguing with the left and the woke right on Twitter about these observations. And so I think I'd like to stream myself watching the video again live and just talking about kind of what's going on in the video, but talking about the broader picture stuff. So I may do that this week. And also too, I know I cover kind of the celebrity cases typically, but I don't really have anything that I can think of to cover like that for now. I could cover Destiny's case. I know the transcript came out, but like it's like 100 and something pages, and that just seems like a beast to try and cover that. But those videos did relatively well on the channel. So maybe that'll be the next video. But I think streams. I think I'm okay doing streams where I talk about this kind of stuff and not the celebrity stuff. Like I'll save videos for celebrity stuff, but my streams will be all about the political project. I never covered the Diddy thing a little bit. I read through the indictment when it came out, and I've got some contacts now, kind of through the Twitter space, that like one Twitter account called the Diddy Docket, which was just all updates from Diddy, the Diddy case. That made me realize, wow, there's just so much happening with it, and I just cannot keep up with it. So I didn't really cover that one too closely, but yeah. Next case, weirder than that though, because both Fuentes and Shapiro have the same talking points on the immigration problems facing the UK. So yeah, there certainly is overlap on some points, but just because you've got overlap on the fringe of like a core belief doesn't negate the fact that the core beliefs are like so far apart. Like Ben's new book is all about lions versus scavengers, and how you've got the lions who like to build stuff and build movements and build countries and societies and businesses and whatnot. They're just the go-getter types. And then you've got scavengers that look to tear everything down or destroy everything so that they can basically loot the scraps. And basically, scavenger, when you think of what is woke ideology, it's a grievance-based politics that says, like, I'm being put down upon by dint of my race or my sex or my sexual orientation. And because of that, like, just think of the woke left. The woke left makes the argument that, it's the intersectional victim hierarchy. If you're black, you're oppressed. If you're a woman, you're oppressed. If you're gay, you're oppressed. If you're a combination of these things, then you're ultra oppressed. And therefore, they build a whole grievance-based politics based on this assumptions that if you are one of these victim categories, that society discriminates and oppresses you. So that's the woke left, basically, in a nutshell. The woke right makes the same exact argument, saying that because you're white, or because you're a man, or because you're a Christian, society is oppressing you. And there are real instances of that kind of stuff happening. But then the question is, how do we fix it? Do we fix it by instituting white supremacy or like white race-based politics to counteract the anti-white race-based politics? Or do we actually do a return to America's founding principles, to the idea of equal justice under the law? I mean, what does the Declaration of Independence say? It says that all men are created equal. So, yeah, I mean, Ibram X. Kendi, his view was the only way you can combat past discrimination is with present discrimination, and the only way you combat present discrimination is with future discrimination. It's basically, the only way you can fight racism is with more racism. Is fight fire with fire. And that's the woke left and woke right. They're fighting fire with fire against each other. And here we are in the reasonable right. We're trying to say, how about we fight fire with water? Maybe that could work. I think that'd be cool. So yeah, just because like they may have some agreement on some talking points. Not surprised that there's going to be some overlap. The question is, what are the core principles, and do they overlap there? And I would argue that they are miles apart on their core principles. But yeah, I get it too. I mean, that's really, I was making videos and getting no traction at all at first, and then I started making some celebrity videos, and like the very first one I made on the Tory Lanez case got like 6,000 views, and I was used to getting like under 100. I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of led me down that path. But ideally, I would not be doing as much celebrity coverage. But so we'll see what happens. Got a viewer as long as you're not at the same time as my boy North. Yeah, I remember what you said earlier. You're trying to sticking with North because he's moving in the right direction. I think so too, and I certainly hope so. Because we're gonna have our strong disagreements now, but ideally, our vision for the future of our coalition is going to be people like North coming in and working with us, and us ultimately working together to build this movement that can be post-Trump. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how much of this is like. Yeah, I think North has more hope than I think someone like Connor. Because gosh, when I watched Ryan's debate with Connor, and Connor's out there saying, or Ryan makes the Lord of the Rings analogy and saying, the one ring is the ring of power of the federal government. Well, just the big gun of government, and the solution is you throw the ring in the fire and it'll get rid of it. And Connor's solution was, no, actually, I want to use the ring, like use it back against them. It's like that's not a very traditionally conservative principle. It's kind of a big government. I want to use the government to effectuate my outcomes, my beliefs. So we'll see. But yeah, all I'd say, I do have hope for North. Yeah, let's see what else. You know, I'm going to agree with you there because I know you can keep going, and yeah, I wish I could too. But like I said earlier, I'm trying to be better about getting in the gym early, so I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I can already tell I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning because I'm up at 11 o'clock right now. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Oh, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, last comment. I think a key person trying to see if a bridge could be built is Hutch. That would tell me we aren't litmus testing too much. I'll have to see more. I'm familiar. I'll say this. I'm aware of Hutch. I know who he is, but I'm not really familiar with his beliefs. I know he's on the left. That's it. The last person, the way I currently feel about Hutch, I've heard he's one of like the reasonable lefty types. So like you just said there, I can hopefully build a bridge with him. My main hesitancy, okay, yeah, the most reasonable person on the left. Okay, I accept your ringing endorsement. I have no reason to disagree with you. I'll just say the last person I was told is the most reasonable person on the left is Josiah. And to me, these days, he is not distinguishable very much at all from the woke left. So especially with the court packing conversations and his belief that should be like a number one policy priority for the Democrats is to pack the Supreme Court is, yeah. So that's the last person I was told is like, oh, this is a reasonable voice on the left. Between that and Destiny, I've been a little black-pilled, but like I said, I will, and actually, yeah, is what, like you say, it's watch, live, and learn. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I do remember, not too long ago, it was Hutch that was the one that was basically saying, hey, maybe we should stop like catering to the far lefties, the tankies and the wokies, because they don't vote for Democrats. They just crap on Democrats all the time. And they don't vote for Democrats. They hate the Democrats, and they don't really align with us on core values either. So, and I remember that caused like a huge like fallout struggle session with Hutch from Peace Going to Josiah and all them. So, yeah. So now that I'm remembering that, I see where you're coming from, and your assessments here. So, yeah, I think so. Well, we'll see. We'll see if maybe. We'll see if maybe Hutch can make a special appearance on Ordered Liberty. I don't want it to turn into a debate. Yeah, I don't want to make it into a debate show. But if he can agree, if we can all agree, it's going to be a lot more discussion oriented and talking about, where can we build bridges on say the news of the week. I can see him being a guest, but we'll see. That's we'll have to see how that might go. But, and yeah, it would take loads of time to make that bridge, not overnight. Yeah, I can see that. I'll start here. Here's what I'll do. I'll start replying to some of his tweets not in combative ways, not in hostile ways, but in like, I agree. I agree with what you're saying on a point that I may agree with. So I'll start trying to build that bridge. You got my word on that. But anyway, but yes, okay, for real, it's time to go to bed. Appreciate it. I love the conversations. yeah, be on the lookout soon for if I do a live stream watching the Shapiro, the content nuke. Um, yeah, be on the lookout for that. That may happen sometime later this week. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe Thursday. So, okay. Well, yeah. Hey, everyone, have an awesome night. Once again, thank you all so much for the support and being here and the commenting. Just wanted to, we got to 10 likes on the stream. Heck yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, everyone have an awesome night, and I will see you all soon. So, goodbye.